and they'd say, look at the bag. The Unit 3 that the corpsman carried was a target. And I mean, it was vicious. I knew a couple of Marines who'd been in combat in the war, and that was war to the knife and knife to the hilt.
Wow.
And this guy told me, he said we'd stick our knives in the sand at the edge of our hole so that we could, rather than reach down here, it was
Right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that, I mean,
That is crazy.
when it comes to fighting with knives, it's
personal.
I remember reading that too, that
it's very.
World War II was one of the last wars that was basically hand-to-hand combat in a lot of situations.
Oh, I think the recent fracas has seen some hand-to-hand combat.
All of them. There's a lot of hand-to-hand.
Yeah.
It's good trench warfare though, but
Trench warfare is different.
yeah.
Trench warfare is.
That was like
You're talking
really
World War I,
bloody.
it's like, yeah, but it wasn't.
Well, and
There was
Korea
more
was
artillery.
Korea was trenches at the end too.
At the end, yeah.
And it still got very personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not.
Anytime you have boots on the ground, you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You're gonna get.
Yeah.
Hand-to-hand.
I know of a British officer who had to use his bayonet in Afghanistan.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well.
Let me show you this P-47 that's a picture of right there.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Show you right over.
Oh, this way.
That goes this way. I'll take you back there.
If these folks don't mind, I'm going to tag along because I'm learning.
Oh, we're loving it.
Oh,
Learning to be a real docent. It's kind of like Pinocchio wanting to be a real boy.
Thank you
You know?
both so much.
So this is what White 33 looked like when they brought it on the hole.
Wow.
This is the P-47 that's in that picture next to it. So you can see there's really not much that is salvageable to restore. I talked to Bill, they're doing an Spd2c Helldiver next door. I asked him, how much is that original? He said, I think there's one of the motor mounts is original and that's about it.
Wow.
You know?
It's crazy. So what is the P designation in front of them? Pursuit.
The letters do mean something.
Okay.
In the Army Air Corps, P was for pursuit, B was for bomber, T was for train, C was for cargo. Okay.
C-130, yeah.
Yeah, C-130. Okay, those are all cargo. It still works today. The Navy letters mean something also, but they're different. It's more the mission. PBY, the big PBY Catalina, patrol bomber. Y stands for Consolidated Aircraft that built that airplane. The
Because the
TBM,
Navy's got to be difficult.
they got to be difficult. Even today, Com Sub Pack 457. What the heck does that mean? You know?
Commander Submarines Pacific
Yeah, I know,
457. You just
I know,
just have
but
to
you have to learn it.
I
So
speak Army
yeah.
and Air Force.
Yeah. There's a TBM in the back. It's a torpedo bomber. M stands for General Motors. General Motors built TBMs during World War II. Two companies
Really?
built TBMs.
I didn't know
TBs.
GM was involved in any of the aircraft
They were.
building.
Also, here's one for you. Corsairs. There's 3 companies that build F4. How do you say? They weren't all F4s, but they were Corsairs. F4U was built by Vought Aircraft, which built the majority of them.
Right.
Goodyear, the FG Corsair, was built by Goodyear. And then the F3A Corsair, about 750, were built by a company called Brewster Aircraft Company. So Goodyear built Corsairs.
Goodyear built Corsairs.
General Motors built TBMs.
Wow.
And they built the Wildcat too.
And they built the F4 Wildcat. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, not one company could keep up with the amount of production of aircraft.
No, I imagine not. They had to bring them all in. I mean,
You know how many airplanes
Everybody-
were built during World War II?
not a clue.
355,000 airplanes.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
God, we can't build 300 of them
can't.
now for less than $1 billion.
We can't get them off the drawing board in less than
Nope.
10 years. You know?
And those were slide rules and
Yeah.
drafting tables.
Wow.
You know,
So let me
but-
show you something.
Yeah,
on this
please.
P-47. You're going to see this when you go over to Hangar 3. There's a mock-up of the turbocharger. Do you have a turbocharger in your car?
Well, I had a car with turbocharger.
It's about that big.
Right.
Okay. Here's a turbocharger in the P-47. It's that big.
That's insane.
I want that in my car.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's the
Even to get
turbocharger.
that spun up must
It's
have
spun
required
by
a huge
exhaust.
RPM.
It's spun by
Right.
exhaust.
Engine exhaust.
Yeah, the engine exhaust.
So the
comes
engine
out
had to get up to RPM to spin it.
20.
Have you looked at that engine?
Have you looked how big that engine is?
So just basically the size, almost like it's a huge diesel kind of thing.
But
it's not.
A radial engine, 18 cylinders.
Yeah.
Wow.
2,000 horsepower. No, not this one. This one over here. This is a P-47.
Okay.
Which is that airplane.
Okay.
That's the same airplane, a little bit different model. Okay. But this is probably the most widespread used engine, I would say, in the war, because the F-7F uses it. This uses it. The Corsair uses it.
B-29s, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
And who built this engine?
2800. It's an R2800, 2,000 horsepower, 18 cylinders.
Wow.
Radial engine.
2 rows of 9.
Yeah, 9 and 9.
So radial is rotary, right?
No, radial, air cooled.
Okay.
But the
Air cooled.
so the pistons.
Yeah, they're radial. They're around the center line, so that means I guess that's how they get the radial. You have the center line with the prop, and then you have the cylinders around it.
Right.
Okay, that drive the shaft. There's a mock-up in that back room of the engine.
Okay.
Okay. But the exhaust from this feeds back, and this has got the turbocharger. That's why
Okay.
it has a oil pan back there.
Oh.
Oil for the turbocharger.
Wow.
This is one of the only operational turbocharged FP47s.
So the rest of them
Like
didn't
4 or
have the
5.
turbocharger in there?
No, they all did.
Oh, they all, okay.
They all P47s. There's only 4 of them today remaining that fly.
What?
Well, because they're not going to fly this airplane
Yeah.
at altitude.
Right.
And so why would you?
They don't need the turbocharger.
They don't need it,
Got it.
but there's kind of a
Without that turbocharger, this thing never would have got to altitude to escort B-17s in Germany. It probably would have been efficient up to 15, 20,000 maybe, because it does have a supercharger. But with the turbocharger, it allows it to get up to 35,000.
So it has a turbocharger and a supercharger
yeah,
in it?
Yep, has both.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. 1930s technology, basically.
They still have a hard time doing that today in their vehicles and things like that we
Yeah.
have today.
Yeah.
It's just
Well-
the engines can't handle it.
Those engines,
a lot of
those
stress.
radial engines can handle it. You could lose cylinders in this engine and still operate.
when they frequently did.
Yeah, they would lose too.
gunfire.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a story of Rob Johnson in the book Thunderbolt. He was the second leading ace in Europe, flying P-47s. He gets about, I don't know if it was from Flak or I think it was from Flak.
What?
Flak, flying, escorting B-17s into Germany. He turns towards the UK, where his base is. He's by himself, heavily damaged, not very maneuverable. Now, the thing you have to learn about this airplane is, and most of the fighters, they had a steel plate behind their back, head, and around their butt. It's a
Okay.
half-inch steel
Yeah.
plate.
There's a display in
in that room
side
over there.
room.
Okay.
So he's flying back, a Messerschmitt 109 comes up behind him and he unloads every bullet that he's got into Rob's airplane.
Wow.
Rob can't maneuver very well because of the battle damage. He said he feels the bullets hitting the plate behind him.
Wow.
He can feel the bullets hitting the plate. The German comes up beside him, rocks his wing, and goes home. So Rob,
Good luck.
He makes it all the way back to the UK. He thought he was going to have to bail out over the channel, but he makes it all the way back. He gets out of the airplane on just on one side of the airplane's over 200 bullet holes.
That's insane.
Probably the most durable airplane, fighter airplane in World War II. The A-10 Thunderbolt is named after this Thunderbolt.
I can see why.
Yeah. Although the first TBF to come back from combat came back with about 200
Oh,
holes.
the one at Midway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To include a hole through one of the prop blades.
Wow.
But this has 850 caliber machine guns. It also could carry bombs. When the P-51 came into theater, they relegated P-47s to do ground attack. And they actually, hundreds and thousands of sorties of B-47s were flown before the D-Day invasion to prep the battlefield, hitting bridges and roads and convoys and trains
Wow.
and all that in preparation of the invasion. Very durable, very capable airplane.
Well, then they started operating from dirt strips in France.
Yeah.
As soon as there was enough territory for an airfield, these guys, the P-47s, were operating there, and they put some probably very unhappy pilots into tanks with radios. And so the very first Army example of You got a pilot on the ground talking to the pilot in the air. Go over there and hit this artillery piece or whatever.
Yeah.
They do that all the time now.
So ground spotting kind of thing.
And they're still very unhappy when they have to do
Yeah, I've
it.
had friends that went from flying and they got to be with the Army. The beauty of the assignment was the assignment guy saying, hey, we want you to go be an ALO with whatever division, 4th Infantry Division, Air Liaison Officer.
Yeah.
So they would send an Air Force pilot or navigator to the unit, and they would spend 3 years there. But they got their choice of assignment when they came out. So the guys.
So it was their payment
Yeah, they
for the
say,
punishment.
okay, you go here, and I'll give you whatever you want when you come.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's called an Air Force appreciation assignment.
Yeah.
See how the other half lives.
Exactly.
So, but I see that there's a pitch indicator on here.
Yep.
You could actually change the pitch of the props
Oh
too.
yeah,
Constant speed prop.
but it
There's a motor up in here in the hub. It's either hydraulically or electrically driven. Okay. Now these I think were constant speed props where they would. I don't think the pilot
it's
had
oil
to
pressure based on RPM,
So it would.
and
You want different pitch in the prop based upon what you're doing. If you're flying level, you want a certain. You want the most efficient airflow that the prop can give you. And I don't know what those pitch numbers are, but they are different if you're going straight and level, if you're climbing, and if you're fighting, you want the most. You want that blade getting you the most power that you can.
Wow.
So based upon the RPM of the engine, the blade rotates with that hydraulically driven or electrically driven engine.
So the pilot didn't have to adjust it.
Some of these cases.
but like in the
Okay.
B-25,
Yeah.
that's got a pitch control for those
In the cockpit.
those
Okay.
blades. You can actually move it, and that's part of what Lindbergh
And
was trying to teach these guys.
That's the one that was used in the Doolittle raid, right? The B-25s?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Really?
Okay.
it's the type
And-
of airplane.
Those
Now-
over there?
Yes.
yeah. This is not the model used
Oh, okay.
in the Doolittle raid.
That one was actually in the movie Pearl Harbor.
Was it? That's
Yeah.
the one?
I watched
Yeah.
it yesterday. It was on.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we
on-
were watching it too yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they were down there learning to take off the carriers,
Yeah.
you know.
With Alec Baldwin, the
that's
character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the airplane they were flying.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Do you have a tour, or do you want to
11:30.
flip for Westpac, or?
I gotta let. No, you guys can do that.
Oh, that's what the announcement was?
Yeah.
Saying
After you get done with the tour, come back.
New Orleans.
You got a great museum there. huh?
We
Yeah.
do.
We do. We have a little one. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they keep adding to it.
Yeah,
so.
I was down there
Great.
probably 25 years ago.
Oh,
when I was
wow.
Oh, it's
flying with Continental. You had layovers there. and
Huge difference now.
That's what I hear.
yeah. Every year they're doing something
Yeah.
new to it.
Adding.
Yeah.
Well, good. Glad you guys carved out some time for our museum today.
Well, we were excited.
glad you're here.
Let's head on over.
Yeah. Ready?
Okay, yes.
All right.
First. Oh, it feels so nice out here today.
Yeah, it really does.
So Westpac is a private, for-profit company that does airplane restorations. I don't know if you had a chance to see our P-38 yet.
Yeah, they were showing us
so
earlier.
they,
Yeah.
you know, they took that. Oh, hey.
Oh,
Hey.
awesome.
All right.
Sorry,
Well, welcome.
we're intruding on your private tour.
Oh, that's
No,
okay.
it's yeah.
We totally messed it up. Go back in the home front thing. It's like,
Yeah. Well, glad you made it.
yeah, this is really great.
This is the only part of the museum that you actually have to be escorted to.
That's what we understand. That's why we
Private
want to
company.
visit the rest
Right.
of
Let me call in the number real quick.
it. Sure.
And Johnny, this is Hans taking 4 over to Westpac.
We went to the Air Museum, Pearl Harbor.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've not.
Oh yeah.
It's on my bucket list.
Oh, you can still see the bullet holes in one of the walls. They left it there.
Really?
Walls
Yeah.
and hangers.
Yeah, and it's fabulous if you ever
We
have a
had
chance.
yesterday morning. I don't know if you watched the news last night,
No,
but we
we
had
didn't.
the TV stations here because we had we normally not open on Tuesdays, but we opened yesterday because it was the 80th
Right.
anniversary.
Yeah, Pearl
Right.
Harbor.
And we had 3 World War II vets
wow.
that were here, and they were talking to the folks. It was really, really nice.
Wow.
Johnny, this is Hans, 4 to Westpac.
I bet New Orleans did something yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
The
Well, that's where we're from.
Oh, is it?
so-
All right.
Yeah.
Feel free to take all the pictures and
Thank
video
you.
like in here.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
ask you just watch your step because it's And just kind of
Y'all
go
go
off to
ahead.
the left there,
You
and
go
I'll meet you there.
ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do here is we'll talk about the airplanes that are in here, and we'll go around to the different shops. I'll show
I love
you,
that smell.
explain
It's a machine
what
shop
they
smell.
do. So I'll say this now because if I don't, I'll forget it. But above that ceiling, those are all original World War II airplane parts.
Oh, wow.
They get them whenever and wherever they can. And actually behind that wall down below, they have racks and racks, just like you'd see in an auto parts store, or we call the smalls.
Sure.
You know, screws, washers, everything original from World War II. Okay, we have two Corsairs here. This is an F4U built by Chance Watt, the late model. They had lots of problems with getting Corsairs carrier qualified. Lots of reasons for that, one of which the pilot sits so far back,
Oh, look at that.
and farther back than any other fighter in World War II. And the reason for that was, Chance Watt, when they designed this very unique inverted gull wing design, they wanted to put the fuel tanks in the wings, and the Navy said, no, we want the main fuel in the fuselage. So they had to move the cockpit back 30 inches in order to do that. In World War II, when you landed on a carrier, it's basically a crash landing, right? It's right at stall speed. So when you start slowing down to stall speed on approach, and with the cockpit that far back, you know, the angle of attack goes up, and these guys said, how are we supposed to land? We can't even see the carrier.
Right.
They worked it out eventually, because we sold Corsairs to the Brits as well, and the Brits were flying them off the carriers from day one. So and the main difference that we learned is we were doing straight-in approaches, whereas the Brits were doing a box pattern. So you're always looking at the carrier
Yeah.
while you're doing your pattern. Just that very short final approach, you couldn't see the carrier.
Yeah.
And also stalled. Corsairs had a tendency when you got really slow and they stalled, the left wing would stall first, so the airplane would basically go like that.
Always on the left.
Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry. No, it was the right. Here's the right. So what they did is they would put this. The solution was a $3.65 little metal wedge they put on the leading edge, and that disrupted the airflow enough to where both the wings would stall at the same time. So if you stalled, all that's going to happen is you're going to drop straight down instead of that rolling motion that you couldn't control.
Wow.
So
Wow.
deadly problem, very simple fix.
Yeah.
This particular airplane is normally not here. It flies the air show circuit. Jim Tobel flies it. So if you've ever seen a Corsair in an air show, it's probably been this one. It winters here. We do his annual, or Westpac does his annual inspection, whatever maintenance needs to be done. So in the spring, it'll head out again and go do the air show circuit. One really interesting thing I'd like to point out is two names, Jim and Joe Tobel. Joe Tobel was his father. He flew Corsairs in Korea. After Korea, he found this one, surplus, bought it, restored it, and flew in air shows. He crashed in an air show on takeoff. Lost his engine, failed for what I don't know what the reason was, but he crashed into some trees and was killed. So his son Jim recovered the airplane, restored it, and now his son Jim flies the same airplane that his dad flew in air shows.
Wow.
Okay, that 3 companies built them. And if you follow me over here,
That's really cool.
we'll get to that one. But that's our second Corsair. 3 companies built them. Chance Watt, who designed it. Goodyear Tire built them. They were called FGs. And a company called Brewster out of New York. This is a Brewster-built Corsair. They only built about 735, and they had a lot of quality control issues, some labor problems at the plant. The Navy actually came in and shut the plant down.
Wow.
So they only built 735. We sold a lot of these Brewster ones to England. And in the States, they were only used for training because they had some issues, okay? So this is a Brewster-built Corsair. It is the only surviving Brewster Corsair in the entire world. So very rare.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the markings on this?
You know, I think those are, I can tell you what the birds are. He's had 2 bird strikes in this airplane.
Oh.
And the bombs are actually, I think, air shows that he's flown in.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Good question,
Normally,
honey.
in the
just
war, they would have put, you know, a
for
swastika or
kills.
whatever for an
Zero
airplane that they shot
or
down.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we have here behind us, and please,
Thank you.
ask as many questions, because I have a tendency to ramble, and the only way you can stop me is to ask questions. So, this is a T6 Texan, advanced trainer. So if you wanted to be a pilot in World War II, you went through 3 phases of pilot training: primary, basic, and advanced. And I'll talk about a primary trainer that we have once we get to that. So all 3 of those phases took about a year. This was your advanced trainer. So this would be the last airplane that you would fly before you got your wings. Fully acrobatic. You do gunnery training, combat training, instrument training, and once you pass this phase, you get your wings and go off to whatever airplane you're going to fly. This one is U.S. Air Force. They actually use these T6 for trainers until about 1950-ish. So this would be a post-war. It's painted in post-war colors. A lot of Texans still fly. You see them a lot at air shows. If you ever see a Japanese Zero in a movie or an air show, it's probably a Texan that's been repainted.
Wow.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. Where do they have zeros on display?
There are very, very few. I think there's one in Chino, California. I'm not really sure. I would have to Google that. There's only maybe 2 or 3 that are still.
We didn't know if there were any on display in Japan itself.
Oh, I don't know. That I don't know.
Yeah, what could we?
Now the Smithsonian might even have one, but theirs of course doesn't fly.
Yeah.
Commemorative Air Force has one right now. I don't know which chapter has one. Okay, so this, we have 2 of these. It's an F-7F Tiger Cat. We have 2 of them. This is our second one. There's only 6 flying. We have 2 of them. So this airplane was designed in World War II. You can always tell a Navy airplane, right, by folding wings. That means it's designed to fly off of carriers. Fold wings, you can fit more airplanes on your carrier.
Right.
This is much larger than any other Navy airplane you'll see in the museum, just compared to a Corsair or an Avenger, for example. And the first twin-engine Navy fighter designed for the Navy. This was designed to fly off of late war carriers, which were bigger. It was designed in World War II, but it never flew in World War II. Much like the Corsair, it had problems getting carrier qualified. The Navy couldn't get a carrier qualified. Lots of reasons. The main reason is, just like an airliner you guys fly today, any 2-engine airplane, they're designed so that you have to be able to fly on one engine during the most critical phase of flight. And that's not always takeoff. It may be if you're flying in the mountains. That's why Eagle Airport in Colorado is one of the 10 most dangerous airports in the world, because of the mountains off the departure ramp. All right? So you have to be able to have a climb rate to clear your obstacle. Anyway, that's a little aside. But this airplane had a problem in that on landing, if you got a wave off on a carrier and you gave the good engine full power, you would counter that torque. Because let's say this right engine, you've lost the right engine, your left engine's operating, so you're getting ready to land on a carrier, you get the wave off, you give full power to the left engine, obviously the airplane is going to want to roll towards the dead engine, right? You counter that by pushing your rudder pedal. Okay, the problem with this airplane initially was the rudder was not strong enough or large enough to counter that. So you had no control over the airplane, it was going to crash. Okay? Big engineering, I assume a few engineers lost their jobs over that one. But they redesigned it. Eventually, it was en route to the Pacific, to the Marine Corps, when the war in the Pacific ended. So it never flew in World War II. It did fly in Korea as a night fighter and reconnaissance airplane. After Korea, it was obsolete. Why do you think it was obsolete?
I mean, jet engines then.
Yeah, the advent of jet engines and jet aircraft, and jet fighters. So, but they did use these a lot for many, many years in the wildfire fighting mode. So, okay, let's go over here to our prop shop. This is our prop shop. There are very few places in the world that still repair propellers. Rudy is our prop guy. He is by far the best in the world, and I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But let me talk about what happens with a prop. So these are prop blades from a Wildcat, a Ford Wildcat. Landed gear up. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but bent the blades back. So Rudy will take these blades and restore them to factory specifications. Okay? These have been repaired and are being ready to be shipped out. That one back there, the three-blade prop, that has been restored. That's going to go on our Helldiver, which we're restoring, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. Okay, so let's say he gets these in. He's going to work on them. First thing he does, he sends it out to a company that take the hardening component out. Okay, it's called annealing. So he gets it back, and it's like a stick of chewing gum, where you just very pliable, right? So depending on what needs to be done, not all of them are this bad. Some only maybe you can't even see it. It's just there's some vibration, and he needs to figure out what's wrong with the prop. So he's got various machines that will bend the blade, add torque to it. They're all hollow, so if he needs to add weight, he can only do that at the end near where the hub is. Okay.
How do they make it pliable? What do they do to it?
They just take the hardening component. It's an annealing process. There are companies that take that hardening component out of the metal, so it comes back pliable. And when he finishes with it, he sends it back to that same company. They put the hardening back in there so that.
That's crazy. So are they not made of steel, aluminum?
Yeah, they are steel and aluminum.
Okay.
But
It's still
pliable, still flexible, unless you add that, I guess,
So
hardening.
they must put it into a forge, and I don't know how they do. I don't know the process they use.
Where's Rudy?
To do that.
He can answer that.
So you've got lots of machines that will do that. And when he's done with the prop, he doesn't have one here now, but it'll be there. You know, he has to balance it, make sure it's all balanced.
Sure.
And he'll have countless magic marker markings on there. They're all measuring points for him.
Right.
Obviously, the error tolerance is very, very small on a prop. And not only that, let's say you have vibration on a prop, right? You don't know if it's which blade it is or what's going on, so you send all the blades to Rudy. And because each prop blade, if he only has to work on one, it still has to match exactly the other blades. Otherwise, when you put it on an airplane, start it up, it's going to cause vibration, right? Like balancing your tires on your prop.
I need to get him over to do my fan at the house. At high speed always wobbles.
I told you he was the best in the world. I'm just going to give you one example. We all know Red Bull, right? The energy drinks. I've never had one, but they must sell a lot of them because it's a very big company. And their headquarters is Salzburg, Austria. It's an Austrian company. They do a lot of air racing, have a lot of airplanes. They have a large warbird collection as well. One of their airplanes is a B-25, just like our B-25 in the main hangar. It had some vibration in one of the props, so there's one guy in Europe that works on them. They sent it to him 3 times. Came back, wasn't right. Sent it to Rudy, he works on it, sends it back to Austria, and it's perfect. Okay? So needless to say, we do a lot of Red Bull props from that point on. Okay. He works on props from all over the world, from museums, private collectors, and that sort of thing. Rudy's he's been doing this over 40 years.
I hope he's training someone.
I
Well,
was thinking
There
the
needs to
same
be an
thing.
apprentice.
he would love to find a young person to become an apprentice. He's had a couple, I understand. And I'm kind of going beyond my level
I'm
of
just curious.
expertise here. And I don't want to insult anyone,
Right.
but we don't tell anyone. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But it's like with the trades. Young people,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's difficult to get young people to want to have the patience, because this is to learn how to do
work
this
ethic.
business takes a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So young people don't have the patience, and they don't really want to work at. And this is a sweeping generalization. Of course, there are young people that want to work with their hands, but more and more young people want to do stuff on the computer, right?
Yep.
No,
They don't want to do the trades, and whether it's
yeah,
straightening props or or becoming a plumber, electrician, it doesn't matter.
Or, you know, master, plaster, you know, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, all those.
For all that
working with their
woodwork and all that
hands.
Yeah.
stuff that, you know,
So
just takes
he would
the
love to
master.
find someone who would love to,
Well,
and he's employed by Westpac. So they have seven, I believe it's 7 full-time employees that
wow.
work on it.
Oh, here's some crops over here. I think he's finished. Look.
Yep, yep. Hasn't
So-
finished painting them yet, but yeah.
What does he spin them on?
Well,
to
he
balance
just
'em?
balances them. He has these. He says first of all he shuts off all airflow. It can be no airflow whatsoever. And he puts them on these. He's got something here where he puts it on there on this table for his measuring points, and he'll hang it and basically balance it just the old-fashioned way, like they did
Really?
in World War II.
So it's not a machine like at a tire shop where they spin it and they see where it's in balance and then they add things to it. He actually has to hang it and then
Yeah.
look at its
Yeah.
balance. Okay.
He does everything just like they did in World War II.
That's crazy.
He's a propeller artist,
Right.
Yeah.
just not.
A dying skill, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, like so many. Right.
Okay, so we're gonna go over to the main shop. So if you're around in September, we have an air show, we're gonna have an air show, and we're gonna do that every year. And you see all the airplanes in the museum fly, as well as a lot of other warbirds come in from around the country. And modern airplanes too, fighters and stuff like that. So it's really a good air show.
Wow.
I haven't been to air shows. We had the big one at DIA before DIA opened. We went out to that, we went out there, you sit down on the runway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was fun, yeah. Before the airport officially opened.
Okay, so this is our Hd2c Helldiver. Interesting story with this airplane. Being restored, as you can see, my understanding is it'll fly for the first time in about a year. That's subject to change, of course. So this was designed to replace the Avenger Torpedo Bomber and the Spd Dive Bomber, okay, that is in the main hangar. You can see it's a very large airplane, right? Again, designed to fly off of some of the larger carriers. A lot of problems getting carrier qualified. That's kind of a recurring theme with Navy airplanes, you know? But you didn't want to put them on a carrier unless you knew that you could do that, take off and land without crashing them. So the prototypes, they wouldn't put them on carriers. They would take, they'd build a couple of prototypes and they would paint a carrier deck on a runway. Run cables across it, and that's where they'd do their initial tests. So this one, the Helldiver initially, the tail hook would catch, the back half of the airplane would stop nicely with the front, hey Scott, but the front half would keep going, literally broken in half. Again, major engineering
Yeah.
mistake. They fixed that and eventually,
Fired some engineers.
fired some engineers.
Right.
Probably the same ones that designed the Tiger King.
Right.
But eventually it became a very successful carrier-based torpedo and dive bomber. Never did. That was still, till the end of the war, the Avenger was the main torpedo bomber. Okay, so let me tell you about this airplane that's sitting here. We found this, not we, a couple teenagers found this in Lake Washington near Seattle, freshwater lake. There was a Navy base up there, Sandy Point Naval Air Station training base. This was involved in a ground accident. The Navy decided it wasn't worth fixing, so they took the engine off, stripped it of whatever parts they could use, and then they give it to the fire department. And we all know what fire departments do, right? They set it on fire a bunch of times, practice putting out the fire, practice crew rescue. When they're done, they give it back. The Navy takes it out to the lake, dumps it in 150 feet of water. So in 1983, there's two teenagers who were getting ready to go to college, and they didn't want to earn money for college by working at McDonald's. So they remember their dad telling them when they were growing up, during the war, the Navy should take all these airplanes and just dump them in the lake, which they do. Lake Michigan has a lot of Navy airplanes too. So they had this idea, let's get one of these airplanes, raise it, sell it, and make money for college. They did exactly that. These two teenagers, it was clear water, they saw this at the bottom. They were smart though. I don't know if any of you ever used to scuba dive.
Oh, yeah.
150 feet of water is serious.
It is.
That's
Right?
not
Yes.
recreational diving.
That is not
No.
recreational diving.
No,
So what,
it's there.
first thing they did is they go get the Navy dive table, study those, and they were very methodical, smart. They get some pleasure boats once they figured out the different decompression depths that they needed and times.
Stage their dive.
They'd run lines down with all these scuba tanks
Yeah. Oh, very
so that they could
Wow.
stop on the way up and do their decompression.
In cold Lake Michigan.
Well, this was Lake Washington,
Oh,
but I assume it's pretty cold too.
Still cold, still cold.
Yeah.
So they do that, all right? They go down, they buy airbags at a local surplus store, inflatable airbags. They put them under there, and they raise this thing. It's sitting in the driveway. One of the teenagers, well, they figure out what to do with it, and the local TV station hears about it, so they do an interview. Once they're on TV, collectors find out about it. Everybody finds out about it, and the U.S. Navy finds out about it. So the Navy comes knocking on the door one day and says, "Thank you very much for finding our airplane. We'll take it back now." And the teenagers said, "Finders keepers." And the Navy said, "No, it doesn't work that way." And it doesn't. To this day, it doesn't. If you find, the Navy never takes an airplane or a ship off its books, regardless whether it's sunk, crashed,
You're
destroyed,
kidding.
like
I hope they
intentionally
gave 'em a
destroyed.
finder's.
Well, so they confiscated the airplane, put it in a hangar at Sandy Point, and the only way they're going to retain possession is to sue the Navy. They don't have money for that, right? But thankfully, a local law firm represented them pro bono, just for the publicity they were going to get.
Sure.
So they fight them in court. They fight the Navy in court, and they win. Right? One of the main reasons the judge asked the Navy, "What are you going to do with this airplane? Can you keep possession of it?" Well, they hadn't thought that out. It was a rare airplane, so the Navy knew they wanted it, but they weren't quite sure what they were going to do with it. Right? So the judge said, "They're teenagers. It's yours." The Corsair here was found in a swamp in North Carolina, training airplane. This Brewster-built Corsair. And same thing, that individual had to fight the Navy in court and won too. So, depending on the rarity of the airplane, the Navy may or may not choose to fight you in court
Confiscate,
to keep it. Okay? So they get this, and the happy ending is they sell it and make money for college.
Hey,
Wow.
did they raise any other planes?
I'm sorry?
Did they raise any other planes?
Well, no, but there's still airplanes out there. One of the two we were able, one of our docents, big genealogy guy, and he started, I have a book at home called Hidden Warbirds. It talks about airplanes that they've dug up out of holes, recovered from swamps, and this airplane is in that book, and the two teenagers' names are in that book.
Wow.
So one of our guys actually located the two teenagers who are now in their 50s. And they were just thrilled that we had this airplane and we're storing it. So when this flies, they're going to come out for that inaugural flight. One of the guys loved that so much. After college, he does underwater salvage. That's his life's work today.
Wow.
Anyway,
Nice.
so a neat airplane.
Yeah.
That was 1983. It's now 2021, finally being restored. Right? Almost 40 years later. Changed hands a few times.
Yeah.
And here it is. Jim Slattery's paying for the restoration. So we're excited. It'll be, there's one flying right now. There's one or two flying when it flies.
Oh my goodness.
And there's a third being restored. You know, we'll see what happens with that.
So
Yeah.
roughly, what does it cost to restore something like this?
You know, that's a good question, and it just depends.
A lot.
A lot. Millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's like a P-38. They dug that out of a hole in the ground in Papua New Guinea. It's the twin-engine fighter in the main hangar, I'm sorry.
Oh, right.
So when you go over there, please take time to look at that storyboard.
Yeah. That's the one we were
It
looking
cost
at.
probably $1 million to get it from Papua New Guinea in the Pacific to the United States. You know? And that airplane, by the way, is the only P-38 with documented combat time. So to answer your question, it depends on the condition they find it in. If you get an airplane out of salt water, it's going to be a lot. Yeah, corrosion can be a much bigger factor than a freshwater lake. And it just depends on the rarity of the airplane, what parts are available, what parts need to be fabricated. Just depends. But in the millions. Okay. And time-wise, same thing. Just depends. They're having trouble getting a carburetor for this engine. So, you know,
Yeah.
all that stuff takes time. Years and years and years. I think our P-38 was about 7 years in restoration. So, the P-38 we have, and this one I think, Scott, do you know how much of this was usable, of the Helldiver?
Not much.
Not much. It had to be over 30% though, right?
What's that?
It had to be over 30%.
Why does it have to be over 30%?
Well, my understanding is below 30%, it's considered a reproduction and not a restoration. So,
Not according to Scott.
so,
This isn't a business where you're finding cars in a barn.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, this is
yeah.
war machines that were in a lake or, you know,
So
you're
it
building
depends
off all the same exact way that they built them.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are, I couldn't tell you, but it's
Okay.
not.
I heard through the grapevine that over 30% it's considered a restoration.
Yeah,
If you
well,
can use 30% of the original materials.
You're gonna have people that say that's.
One of your guys told me that. One of your,
Give me that.
There was an alleged rumor.
Take 'em all
somewhere
out.
yeah.
About someone who.
So anyway,
That's what I was about to do.
I don't know how much of this airplane they were able to use. What?
I'm getting nonstop crinkles on my video.
Oh, I'm
Wings.
It's all right.
So everything that looks new is new. And they did that in our fabrication shop, which I'll show you here in a minute.
Amazing.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But this is our main shop. That's where you can see, luckily, all the engineering drawings from World War II airplanes are available.
Right,
We have copies of those. You can see them back there.
they're on the board, yeah.
So whatever they're working on, they know exactly what the original specs were for that. And they'll make it to those specs.
So how do they remanufacture the wings and things like that?
I'm sorry?
How do they remanufacture the wings and large metal pieces? How do they
I'll show
CNC
you
all
the
that?
fabrication shop.
Oh, thank you.
They got the specs, so they know what.
You have to know exactly. If they can find an original part, they'll use the original part. But if they can't, they have to make it. So Avenger, I'll talk about this now. We have two of them. One in the main museum again. Torpedo bomber. TBM. Torpedo bomber. M stands for General Motors. General Motors made the most TBMs in the war. Right? There were no cars, no automobiles were manufactured during the war. All the automobile companies made war material.
Wow.
Airplanes, Goodyear Tire built airplanes. They
Right.
built Corsairs.
What did Ford make?
Ford made a lot of stuff. They made Jeeps,
Okay.
Willys Jeeps,
Oh, sure.
but they insisted that their Ford emblem be on the Jeeps. They made bombers, B-24 bombers. In fact,
Really?
Willow Grove, near Detroit, during the height of production, very unique wing folding design, right? It doesn't go up like everything else. It kind of tucks in by in fact, the nickname of this airplane is Turkey, right? Kind of like your turkey, right? Where the wings are tucked against the body. Three-man crew. These were first employed at the Battle of Midway. They sent 6 of them there, all 6 were lost. So they revised the tactics. Instead of sending them, they sent them in from different directions so the gunners on the ships had more to think about. And they gave them air cover, which was crucial because the air cover not only strafed the ships that these guys were going to torpedo, but also kept the Japanese fighters' zeros away from them. Because when you're flying this, you're flying at 50 feet off the water in a straight line towards the ship, and every gun that's possible is trying to shoot you down. So if you're a pilot, this is not necessarily the airplane you would volunteer to fly.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, released your torpedo, so it carried one 2,000-pound torpedo internally. If you were lucky enough to hit the ship with your torpedo, torpedoes were unreliable during that time. 1 out of 3 would detonate.
Really?
So that's
Very
it.
good odds.
All right. A famous person who flew these, actually 2 famous people. One was a gunner and one was a pilot. Let's talk about the gunner first. You guys are all too young to remember this, but maybe you'll know the answer. Cool Hand Luke, who's the actor? The Cool Hand Luke. Nope.
Yes, I remember.
Not Steve McQueen, but
No,
one
no,
of his
it's not.
contemporaries. His face is on salad dressing. Jars.
Yeah, Newman.
Newman, right?
Yep.
Everybody
Paul
knows
Newman.
that when I say that.
You got it first. Okay.
So Paul Newman was a gunner on these. He wanted to be a
Problem we
pilot,
have is a
but he was
failure to
colorblind.
communicate.
Pilot. Texans know this. He was a president. George H.W. Bush scene.
Yeah.
He was shot down on a bombing run on the island of Chichijima. Was heading back to the ship, realized he wasn't going to make it. Ordered his crew to bail out, 3-man crew. He's the only one to survive. Picked up by a U.S. submarine, and it's kind of interesting because in interviews that he did an oral history instead of writing journal. He did a tape journal, and that's they call it survivor's guilt. He had survivor's guilt. He took that to the grave with him. You know, why out of the 3, why did I live? Why did those guys, my buddies, my crew members perish? Is there something I could have done different maybe as the aircraft commander to save them? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very common in the military for people who've been.
So there's a tail gunner. What's the third person do?
He's kind of he's down below. There's actually another gun.
Oh, okay.
And he sits inside. He can't even see out really. So I'm not. Let me see here. He would have been inside, kind of a navigator. He was also a training gunner and would have been a navigator. That's all I can say.
Pretty awesome.
One other thing I want to show you, I think this is really neat about Navy airplanes. So when it's ready to take off, let me see how we're doing on time. Oh man.
We're happy. You take as much time as you need.
Yeah.
Another 10 minutes maybe?
Yeah.
All right.
Or a half hour. Doesn't matter.
So they'd swing the wing around. It would come around hydraulically. This pin right here, sort of my radio. So this pin would come around, go in here. Hydraulically, this rod would lock it in place, and when that happened, the red flag that you can see on top of the wing now would drop down out of view.
Huh.
So the last thing the pilot's going to do before he takes off is going to look on both wings, and if he sees any red, he's probably not, hopefully, he's going to say, I'm not going to take off. So, but what's interesting is this big, heavy wing, the only thing that holds it in place really is this pin in combat. Pretty amazing. I mean, there are places where it kind of connects when you swing it around to the fuselage, but this is what holds it in place, keeps it from separating. So, a neat airplane. Okay, turn around. This is our, remember, 3 phases of pilot training?
Yep.
The Texans are advanced. This is a primary trainer, phase 1. You can see very basic airplane. It is fabric covered, and we'll talk about that in just a second. You can always tell a fabric covered surface by looking at these seams, with the little zigzag on them.
Yeah.
You see that, that's a fabric covered surface. So this airplane is entirely fabric covered, very basic airplane. You had a civilian instructor. His job was to make sure that A, you really wanted to be a pilot, because let's face it, you're a farm boy from Iowa, working the fields your whole life. You maybe saw airplanes fly overhead. You probably, maybe, never saw one up close. But you want to go, you want to fight for your country. It's kind of romantic, right? To be, oh, I want to be a pilot. So these guys sign up, they go, and then they get a few flights in these and say, I'm not feeling so good, you know, this isn't really what I want to do. So that's his job, make sure, A, you want to be a pilot, and B, that you had the aptitude. Because there are guys who don't, they want to fly passionately, but they just don't have what it takes to be a combat pilot. Yeah. So.
That would be me. I did
So,
something about the spatial stuff and it just
Yeah,
doesn't work
yeah.
for me.
Well, you didn't do a lot of that in this. You just did
No,
basic takeoff landings, maybe some S-turns and stuff like that. Nothing real fancy. But still, during the height of the war, they needed 90,000 pilots. 2 out of 3 washed out. So if you need 90,000, you have to recruit 300,000. So washout rate was pretty high.
Seems like step one would be stick them in a roller coaster.
Well,
See if they throw up.
You didn't barf, you're good.
So there's a lot of, and today there is too in pilot training. I was in the Air Force, and you know we had probably 10% of my class. They decided it wasn't for them. They call it SIE, self-induced elimination. Said, hey, this is not really for me.
It's always an acronym.
Yeah. So this airplanes like this, three components. Your structure of the airplane is this metal tubing, wood. So we're actually restoring another one. We'll see it in the shop here. But this is the part where the fuselage will fit in that opening. That part of the airplane closest to the fuselage bears the most stress and needs to be stronger than just fabric. So it's wood. That'll be covered with fabric too. So that's basically this part on both sides. And fabric. Those are the three main components. I'll show you over here how they do the fabric.
I was going to ask you what kind of fabric they would use for a plane.
Yeah.
Certainly not a cotton weave.
Well, in World War II, they used cotton.
Really?
We can't use cotton today because it's too flammable. The FAA will not sign off on it.
Right.
So they use this modern, call it some kind of poly fiber. This is what they use. And it actually is easy. This material is easier to shape around corners and bends than the old cotton was.
Yeah.
So what they'll do is they'll take a surface like this. Okay, this is, so underneath here, it's all, this is like the spars. I mean, it can be metal or wood, depending on the surface. So, a factory worker in World War II, probably a female, would have laid a piece of cotton over this, and then gotten this huge needle, and literally laced the fabric onto the various spar portions. Okay, she'd lace it on there. Well, you lace it on there, and afterwards you can actually see it. If you look really close, you can see these little dark spots. That's where the needle goes in. Well, you can't have holes, so you put this tape over it, and it's the same material as this, with a jagged edge. Okay, so in World War II, they would have then doped it.
A pinked edge, because it's pinking shears that creates that little zigzag.
What's it called?
Pinking.
Pinking?
Pinking
Yeah, I learned
shears.
something.
Oh, there
Well,
you
Good
go.
day, I learned
At
something.
least from sewing and fabric, you use pinking shears to
You know, and I always wondered why they did that.
That's
because it won't
interesting.
unravels well.
Yes.
If
And
you
it
just
actually
do
makes that seam stronger
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, no, you buy. Yeah, you always.
Same with ribbons. You
Yeah.
cut the ends
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
don't fray.
You and I are going.
Hey,
Me too.
I'm learning here too.
Pinking shears.
And that's why y'all worked in the airplane building factories in World War II.
yeah, exactly.
No, but that's what that's called.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Damn, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's what you call it in normal sewing fabric.
Right.
Well, I'm sure it's
That's
the same thing.
super
It's-
interesting.
So what they did, they would then brush on this dope, they called it, and when that dope dried, it would stretch, harden, and stretch the material.
Right.
We can't use that. We don't use that material dope today either. We use heat instead. So just a basic on large surfaces, just a basic iron that you have at home,
Yeah.
and they have smaller irons to work around the corners and stuff to help shape.
Wow.
And then they brush this orange material. I forget what it's called. You know what it's called? And it does the same thing. It doesn't do the stretching, but it basically, because you've done that by applying heat.
Yeah, because the fibers then go contract.
But this orange stuff that they brush on basically helps waterproof it and hardens it a little bit. So that's how they do the fabric on airplanes. Any questions about that?
That was really good. Thank you.
Here you go. And they use pinking shears.
Pinking shears, yeah.
It means-
I learned something new. The jagged edge on that seam.
Yeah.
It's called pinking. I didn't know that.
Well, that's. I mean, that's. I don't. Maybe it's not for
I'm
airplanes,
s-
but for
no, I'm sure it
general
is.
fabric, it's
Yes.
pinking shears.
I
Yeah.
think it would be the same.
I would hope.
Right.
Because those have been around a long time.
If
Yeah.
not, someone on a tour someday will correct me.
Well, I mean, I grew up with my mom and my grandma both sewing, and we always had
Yeah.
pinking shears.
Pinking shears.
So,
Yes.
I'm guessing.
Okay, let's walk over here.
Probably a good guess.
Okay, so you asked where the big pieces were made. This is it. Okay,
yeah.
the fabrication shop.
Oh wow,
Again,
that's
this
some
is-
serious
They
fabricators.
still use these machines making custom cars to a degree, but this, just like the prop shop, is kind of a slowly dying art as well.
Oh,
I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about lots of different machines in here. This is a cutting machine over here, the gray one. A stamping machine that was donated by American Airlines. The green machine back there is a bending machine for large pieces of metal. The blue one over here and the gray one in front are called English wheels. And they have two metal rollers you can see on one end. You can adjust the difference between those, and basically when those wheels are spinning, you can start shaping metal by taking a piece of aluminum. You can shape it. So 3 other machines do the same thing. This Yoder machine, and 2 in back. The taller machines, they are, I call them stamping machines. They have an official name. I don't know what that is. But basically 2 workstations on each machine. 1 on each end. And let me just walk back here so I can show you one of the heads. So they have foot pedals. The harder you push on the foot pedal, the faster that thing hammers.
Yeah.
It does the same thing as an English wheel. You run metal through that. These heads are
Kind of like Orange County Motorcycle Shop thing when they're doing the fabrication of the motorcycles with the tanks and everything. It's just on a much bigger scale.
Yep. So these heads are interchangeable. Here's another example. Different shapes depending on what you're doing. These 2, this is the newest of them. I believe this was manufactured in 1942. The 2 taller ones hail from the 20s. And there's a neat story I'll tell you in a minute. But if you need to finish something by hand, these mats, like you see here, you can see this leading edge. You can put on here and basically shape it by hand using a hammer. Very complex pieces can be made on these machines, unbelievably. You wouldn't think so by looking at them. And sometimes there's one in here, a good example, but there's not today. But at any rate, that's how they make the major parts for the machine. Those 2 in the back kind of have a neat pop culture history. They come from a fabrication shop near LA. Carroll Shelby, about his operation there in the Los Angeles airport and hangar, and his competing with Ferrari, and you can see some of these machines actually being used in that documentary, The English Wheels, for example.
Versus Ferrari, the movie, yeah. Matt Damon.
Not the movie's
Christian
good,
Bale.
too. The movie's good, but this is a
No,
documentary.
documentary, yeah.
So, the very first Shelby GT Mustang, parts of that were built on these machines. The first monorail at Disneyland in Anaheim was made on these 2 machines. And Batman, before the movies came out, there was a TV series.
Yeah.
Adam West.
Adam West, yeah.
And that Batmobile and that TV series was made on these machines. You got any other examples, Rob? I know there's lots of them. The Union Oil signs, the original ones, the metal ones. Union 76, and lots of other ones. But so a real storied history. The guy retired, and these were headed to the scrap heap, I understand. Westpac found out about them. They went out there, bought them, brought them back here. And so their legacy continues. Now they make World War II airplanes. So any question about what goes on in here? I've exhausted my knowledge.
This is impressive.
No, but in other parts of metalworking, those would be called power hammers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Used to flatten and shape the metal, and you move it back and forth
Right.
kind of as you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So you didn't have to
particularly
bang it like a blacksmith constantly with a hammer.
well, blacksmiths, once they used power hammers that were water powered,
Wow.
and a little elliptical kind of a cam thing, and
English wheels. Yeah.
yeah, and so still very much used today. But
When you see someone working these machines with this piece of metal, first of all, it's incredibly loud.
Oh, yeah.
The second one is, how can they possibly make a complicated airplane surface on those machines? It's a real art.
It's an art.
Yeah.
It's like any good artist, whether it's
I don't understand how they shape it exactly to where it needs to be. That's crazy that they
Well-
could shape the wing to the wind tolerance and expected airflow.
They have the diagrams, right? So
Right.
They
Yeah.
know what it's
Like we
supposed
saw
to
back
look like.
I mean, then how do you measure a wing? Like, oh yeah, we're a little off here. How do you measure a wing?
Well, what they do then is they'll make it. They get the engineering specs. They'll make it. Then they'll take it back to the airplane, and they'll use these clicos, temporary rivets, and they'll fit it on the airplane where it's supposed to go. And it'll probably come back and forth a few times.
So it's panel by panel, piece by piece on the wing. All right, and the ribs of the wing, those are made over there as well. I don't know what else to call it. Ribs, the internal piece, the structure, frames. Okay.
Yes. They do that if they have to.
Okay.
They'll manufacture those.
He was saying earlier that they get the original parts as much as they can
Yeah.
from
Right.
World War II, but if they can't, then they make
They have to
them.
manufacture.
Well, I imagine most of the wing would have to be remanufactured because that's the first part to deteriorate, right?
Well, it
The
depends.
skin.
And I don't think our Helldiver actually had the wings when they got it out of the water. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
think
Right.
the
Yeah.
It
wings
was.
were on.
I mean, it came out of deep water.
Yeah, we were talking
And,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, up there are some 70-year-old new parts.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in addition to over 300,000 airplanes,
They had a huge parts warehouse.
they
had to.
manufactured,
And their
Tons of
military
spare
probably
parts.
held onto those for a long time.
well,
It's like the car industry, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
antique
new old
cars.
stock is what
Right.
the
Right.
Exactly. call it.
Every once in a while, that stuff shows up, and it's been sitting in a warehouse.
Yeah.
In
Barn
a corner,
somewhere,
yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
yeah, somebody's
Gets
basement.
discovered, and then all the collectors and restoration companies, they,
Whoa.
like
Swarm on
vultures,
it.
they,
Yes.
Yeah,
or someone will have this,
there's
and,
kind of
and then
Yeah.
the matriarch or the patriarch of the family will pass away. Kids want nothing to do with it, so it all goes on the open market.
Yeah, it was kind of a Turkish bazaar.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of
Feel
trading.
to
That's a
some
good
of it.
point. There's a
It's-
lot of trading, like the cowling
Yeah.
for the Helldiver. They'll say there's another company in Minnesota that's restoring one. So he'll say, hey, you need I'll make you a cowling. All right, so I'll make two of them, one for us, one for you, if you can give me X, Y, and Z for our
Wow.
airplane.
Yeah.
A lot of bartering
If
goes
you're
on.
gonna make
Yeah.
one, you know what you might as well
Yeah.
get a little
Yeah.
economy of.
Yeah.
So
yes.
folks, that's
Yeah,
20
yeah.
minutes over.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Oh my
absolutely.
goodness!
Thanks for taking the
Oh, I have
time.
to tell you, back in the 70s, I helped clean up a B-24 bomber, a B-25 bomber, that had crashed up in the Trinity Alps in California.
Oh, wow.
It was flying to Hawaii. For some reason, had to turn around and came back.
Wow,
And we found the pilot's pistol.
really?
It was still there.
And who were you working for at the
And this
time?
was with the Sierra Club.
Oh, okay.
It was it was a youth group
Yeah.
type thing to go and clean up all the
Yeah.
metal
Debris, yeah.
debris. And
Well, that's where the Pearl Harbor P-40 that's over in Connecticut now. Parts of it came from crashes in the Sierras.
really,
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And yeah, because not everybody.
yeah, we brought
Not everybody
everything
got there.
down to a central location. A big net and a helicopter came in and
Yeah.
Wow.
pulled it out. I don't know what happened to the pieces of it.
What these guys do here, when I talk about the 30%. I was saying, Scott kind of contradicted me a little bit. I don't know. The 30%, over 30% is considered, if you can use 30%
It's
it's considered a restoration. If it's under 30%, it's considered reproduction.
right.
But anyway, so what these guys do, remember World War II, let's say the Navy comes up with a requirement, we want an airplane that flies faster than 400 miles an hour, that has such a climb rate, and can fly, has a combat radius of whatever it may be, right? So these companies decide, do I want to compete for that contract? Right? And those that do, if there's three companies competing for it, only one company is going to get the bid, but their engineers go to work, and then these companies will build prototypes by hand, right? They're not going to change tooling on their assembly lines until they know they have a contract where they can sell 3,000 airplanes, right? So all the prototypes pretty much are hand built. Then a company test flies them. Then they give them the service, and the service test flies them. And then once they get a signed contract, then they'll start changing the tooling on their lines. So
Wow.
they build the prototypes by hand. That's pretty much what Westpac does. Right? They rebuild them just like they did in the war.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So that's kind of Westpac. All right, I'll point you in the right direction.
Amazing.
So we have hangar 2 and 3. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that.
Yes.
Point you over there.
Oh, yeah.
If that's okay, babe.
We don't need
Yeah.
a guide. For
Okay.
that.
No, correct.
Yeah, that's yes.
But there's somebody over
I
there
want to
who'd
say
love
this.
talk to you
Oh,
about
I'm
this.
sure. I'm sure. Yes.
Except he's on the top of
The
the
front
step
desk
ladder.
folks.
Yeah,
said
I
just
saw that.
leave it up and do-
Right, right.
Off the reservation.
Umbrellas, babe.
Fellowship.
A little clear on those.
Yeah.
Okay, if you would watch your step again, please.
Take a look
drum up
inside that truck there.
That's what we're speaking about scuba diving. We went on a dive trip to Yap 2 years ago. This big aerial battle. And we got some tours on the island where they showed us where some of the American plane wrecks were. And they keep the jungle pushed to
World War II.
All the featured metal parts
I could take you
are
into the
original
shops and show
equipment
you
from the World War
some of
II
the
airplane.
airplanes.
Okay.
And they let you buy it and make things out of it?
Actually, the restoration shop,
Westpac.
when Westpac restores an airplane,
Thank you, babe.
we'll get the cast-offs.
Oh, so the pieces that they didn't want to use.
All the pieces they took off the airplane,
Yeah.
Now, why would they opt not to reuse some of the pieces from the airplane?
because every airplane that we've got
Because
is
it might have
licensed
looked
to
like
fly.
this.
Ah, so you guys get creative and you make something out of it.
Did you come from the building over there?
Oh, yes.
we
we've
came
already-
from the Westpac.
Westpac.
Yes, we
Yes.
came from
You went through
Westpac.
the big building?
We did, yes.
Okay.
And then
You saw the
Westpac.
P-38 over there.
We did, yes, and you gave us a little bit of information on it.
It was dug out after 50 years in the ground, and this is part of what that P-38 looked like when they dug it out.
That's insane.
These are off of that airplane, okay?
Wow.
These pieces right here.
And because all of our aircraft are licensed to fly, we can't, the restoration
Reuse
Can't
that.
restore
need
that.
kind of metal as part of the airplane.
Right. But you want to keep it because it's
It's
the
history.
original history
People
piece.
come in and buy this stuff. This is all off of all of these pieces. These pieces right here are all off of that P-38 that's over there.
Wow.
My
So
goodness.
we don't throw anything away. If you went up on a mezzanine, you'd see all of our salvage up there. You know,
Wow.
And that's from the weapon system, the loading magazine.
that is the chute that the 20 millimeters go through
Yeah.
to get to the gun.
So you make it pretty and then sell it.
Yeah, those
Exactly.
are bookends.
Yes.
Well, that's a good way of putting it, babe. I make it
Yeah.
pretty and sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea.
But we try to avoid making it too pretty
Right.
to maintain some aspect of history.
That's right. Yes.
And with our own airplanes, they have to be serviced on a periodic basis. And so the B-25 Mitchell over there had to have new plugs put in it. And these are the old plugs out of our
That's actually the
our
plugs.
Silver Bomber.
Can I
This
pick one up?
Sure.
Wow.
That came off of the left engine. It was the
Wow.
rear spark plug for the number 1 cylinder.
Oh my god.
That is insane.
That is a shielded plug, spark plug. You can't see the
Shielding.
porcelain in there unless you look inside. So it's shielded because otherwise you'd have static in your radio, you know, if they weren't
okay.
shielded. Hello there.
Hello there. Are you trying to sell those?
We try to sell everything.
I figured.
Who did the planes up
Janet,
here?
if she wants that foam rubber.
Oh,
Yeah.
Who did the planes up here?
I got it.
Because those look like,
To us, these are our radio controlled aircraft.
these are amazing. That's not an easy thing to do.
This won a national recognition
Wow.
because the guy that built it matched the colors off of the original airplane. He had access to the original airplane, the full-size one. And
Wow.
so that was donated to us.
Tex.
And then the German plane belonged to the family of the German pilot that flew it in the war.
Wow.
It actually has his name on the side of it.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Donated to us.
Yeah.
Where's his name?
Oh, I don't know. He didn't say.
You said on the
It's
side.
up here.
On the other side?
Maybe.
Oh, can't see up there, huh? Those are beautiful.
Yeah, we didn't build those, so those are donated. Now, our shops are out there.
Okay.
Okay.
I could show those to you just, briefly if you want to see them.
Yeah.
There are more airplanes in here, and then there's another hangar beyond
Well, I
this.
want to see
Oh,
his
yes, the shop.
first. Yeah.
Shop, sure.
I'd love to see the shop.
Don't let me take up your time, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want to.
I really appreciate that. What's your name?
I'm Bill.
Bill, I'm Ryan. And
Ryan,
this is
nice
my
to
wife,
meet you.
Amanda.
Amanda, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for taking us around.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is our machine shop over here. We have machinists who can make anything, okay?
So this would be a
Lathe
CNC
and-
shop?
And our milling machine and our drill presses.
Right.
These are, our guys are building these right now. We're building that big hangar over there. We're duplicating that hangar. There's gonna be a second one over here.
Wow.
They're working on the ground right now to start that. But all of our display things, they're building these display racks, and we have a bunch of these right now.
Wow.
This is a very dusty piece of equipment. This is a Hellcat landing gear.
Oh.
Okay, it's upside down. It would be, of course, on the underside of the wing, but we'll show you how it works. It shows how the wheel rotates. It comes down. Because obviously this would be too wide to go inside the wing unless you put it in there flat.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an F6 Hellcat.
Well,
We
you
have the rest of it, but it looks really bad. I mean, I think it was on fire or something.
Oh.
you are lucky. You get to play with all these big
Oh, I get to
toys.
play with all of them. This is our wood shop out here, and these are all they're building display cabinets, basically, is what goes on here. That's our
Okay.
welding shop right there. We have two guys that work almost full-time here. We've got two guys that work almost full-time there.
Wow.
Well, when I say full-time, I'm talking about 3 days a week usually.
Oh, wow. That's full time.
Our snowplow's way back there.
Yeah.
That-
Not needed
that's-
right now, right?
Not
No,
right now, but it gets a lot of use.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did you intentionally paint it army green? The snowplow.
It was that color when we got it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. A lot of different things here. This is a center section on a trainer. Are you familiar with, I don't know how much...
He did tell us about the trainers, and he told us about that the center section was made out of wood, but I guess these are different, huh?
That is, yeah, that is the open cockpit plane that was over there, the
Right.
BT-19.
Uh-huh.
This is a BT-13. Are you familiar with a BT-13?
No. Is that the advanced trainer he was telling us about, or
Well,
no?
It's a basic trainer.
Basic
you have
trainer.
A primary trainer, a basic
Yeah.
trainer, and an advanced trainer.
Okay, he only showed us the advanced and I guess the primary.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the PT-19 over there with the wood wing and the wood tail and all that, that's a primary trainer.
Right.
Okay.
Then the AT-6, which is our silver, I don't know which building, they move them around, I don't know where it is right
Wow.
now. But the silver AT-6, I think, is over in that building there, and that's an advanced trainer.
Yes.
This
saw
looks very
that.
much like it,
Yeah.
but it's called a BT-13 made by Vultee, and it doesn't have the horsepower that the other one has.
Gotcha.
And the rest of the pieces,
So we're from New Orleans. This
Oh,
is
you
like
are?
seeing the behind the scenes of the World War II Museum.
Yes.
That's why we're enjoying this. Or at least I am. Yeah.
Yes, I am as well.
this is the BT-13 fuselage right here. We tore it down. And the tail cone is back here, the tail is there, the wingtips are over there, okay? This is being, you saw the TBM Avenger with its wings folded
Yes, yes.
over there? Mm-hmm. It has a turret on the back. Did you see the turret on the back?
Yeah, he did show us the turret on the back. It's a
Yeah.
three-person
Right.
plane.
Yes.
Here is a turret off of one of those that one of the guys is restoring.
Wow.
The gun turret off of a TBM.
And he uses the diagrams to try and restore it?
Well, I don't know what he's using, tell you the truth. He's just straightening it out and putting it together.
Yeah.
And his dad was a tail gunner in one of these turrets during the
Wow.
war, which is kind of neat, you know.
Yes, of course.
That is another P-47 Razorback fuselage right there. And this is another one here. We
Okay.
took the skin off of this, and it's going to be a skinless fuselage with all the equipment in it eventually. So we took the skin off of it, and then it needs to be repaired, and it'll be, you see those pictures right there, you can see that
Oh, yeah.
people
sure
have
enough.
done that. That's what we're gonna do with this one eventually.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and then this is part of the turret that goes here with this.
Oh, so this is like the top piece.
Yeah, and this goes up inside, this
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
on the top of it. yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a serious bar to move around, keep him Look how thick or how solid that is. Wow.
Oh, yeah, well, the weight was, that was at one of the biggest of the single engine fighter planes, really.
Yeah.
That TV, it was a torpedo plane, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, he was telling us about that. Yeah. How 1 in 3 would go off, I think he said.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about these parts? This.
That's all part of this turret.
It is.
Yeah, that's the backrest of the seat there,
Oh.
and then there are other pieces, but
Yeah.
What engine is this over here, sir?
that's this one right here.
That engine right
Oh,
there.
that engine, yeah. If you want to go through there, you can come around here.
Sure.
That was an Allison engine.
And Allison was GM, right?
Allison was used in the P-38, the P-39, and the P-40. That is the P-38 had 2 of them.
Oh, wow.
12 cylinder. This is actually just a empty case, but you
Ooh,
can
watch yourself.
see what it looks like anyway.
Wow.
About 1,200 horsepower.
That's
Big American
crazy.
horsepower started at 1,200 and went on up from there.
And that's where the propeller went right there?
That's where the propeller went, yeah.
Wow.
You can tell there's nothing inside of it.
No, no cylinders, otherwise you wouldn't be able to turn it.
No. 12 cylinders. Every cylinder had 4 valves.
That's crazy.
4 valves on each cylinder.
Usually cars have 2 valves, exhaust, intake, exhaust,
Right.
intake.
This has
Wow.
2 exhausts and 2 intake.
Oh, wow.
We have a complete one over in our engine room. If you've been in that room on this end of that big hangar, there's
Oh,
engines,
yeah.
engines
We haven't
in
seen that part of it. We've seen, I
Okay,
think, only
yeah.
thing we've seen is the radial engine
Okay.
case they have. That's
Okay.
the only thing I really looked
Yeah,
at.
we have 1 or 2 radials over there.
That's from 50 cal.
That's a 50 cal
Honey,
receiver.
Yeah.
that's a 50 cal.
Oh, this right here.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
It's not much different from the ones we still use today.
Yeah.
M2.
Wow.
1919s.
Wow.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke.
Don't fix it.
Anyway, yeah, and I'll show you one other thing that over there I didn't mention when we were there, because I'm trying to stay on subject here. That brown rusty frame over there,
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
very unusual. Are you familiar with the gliders that they had during World War II?
Only a little bit.
Okay, you're familiar with the fact that they had them.
Yes.
The nose would swing up. They could put a Jeep or a squad
Yes.
of men in there.
And then
This
they'd
is the
launch 'em out
front
and-
end of a Waco glider.
Yeah. So if you remember Saving Private Ryan, the movie, they had one in there, and I think the general had died or something in his Jeep. I can't remember the storyline.
really?
Never
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
the whole movie, so.
A lot of them only made one flight, and that was it.
Yeah.
A lot of them wrecked coming in and landing. But this,
Yeah.
this is the front end, and this swivels on up, and then they would put a Jeep or squad of men in there. You know, the rest of this fuselage is still outdoors.
Wow.
We don't have the problem that you have of rust. It's very dry here, and 9% humidity
Right.
is about what we have here. you
Right,
know.
right.
So, although nothing we have stays outdoors at night, no airplane stays out. We have, we have to put them in somewhere.
Yeah.
So, as a result, we have one big amphibian. We have a big H-16 Albatross amphibian that's as big as our PBY over here, and it's stored down in Pueblo right now until we get our new building.
Wow.
Because we just have to put everything in
Yeah.
at night, you know.
Right, right.
And
It's
all of that
process.
mezzanine is full of salvage stuff up there.
Wow. That's a tractor used to pull the planes around.
That's a tug. They call them tugs. Yeah, that's one of our tugs. We have 5 or 6 of them.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, they're working on that.
Thank you so much for taking us back here and just
You bet.
showing us some
You bet.
things. We always see the finished product. You never get to
Sure.
see
Yeah.
what it takes to put it together
Yeah.
and to redo it. I wish the World War II Museum would have more like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have over 100 volunteers, men, women, and children. One of the guys, when I was working Saturdays, I was putting together a 2,000 horse engine that's over at display now. And one of the guys brought his 13-year-old daughter in,
Wow.
and she was helping me. Bless her heart, she could get her hands in places I
bet you
couldn't.
couldn't.
You
That's
know,
good.
and she was great. You know, I just
See, I
worked with her all
hope-
day long. You know.
I hope that love sticks with her,
Yeah,
and then she'll
yeah.
grow up to want to do this.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, she was enjoying it. You know, it was just great.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Now, there's always something that kids can do, if it's a sanding something, you know, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
moving things.
I'm so
around.
glad that y'all do that y'all let them be involved. I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the
He's a
World War
big
II
fan
Museum would
of
do that.
Is that right?
No, I think they're very much about this is our project. You know, you'll see it when
Yeah.
it's done.
Yeah.
You know, but to
No,
bring,
no,
and that's how you keep it
everywhere.
going. You know,
Wow, that's awesome.
if you keep it to yourself, no one's ever going to understand how to do it, and then it ends one day.
That's it.
True.
You know.
That's so true.
That's how kids get a passion for doing things like this.
Yes.
Well, you never know what you're going to see in here. See, it changes, and they move the planes around depending on what they're working on. And
Wow.
as OC said in there, all of our airplanes fly. They're all licensed at flying.
They are all ready to
So,
fly at any given moment.
We had an air show here 2 years ago, and we would have had one this year, but they're resurfacing runways out here.
Okay.
So the Army at the end of the airport, way down at the other end, and it's, I don't know, it must be a mile or 2, mile and a half down there. The Army has a depot down there and a large concrete pad down there. We have our air show down there. So next September, we'll have our next air show. and we'll
Oh,
have
that's
all
what
of our
someone
airplanes.
else was saying that
Yeah.
in September.
Probably the third weekend in September is usually when we have it, and it'll be this next year.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I do dust that every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's just an amazing thing. I'm so glad to see that you have a working gear set here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And baby, you can see, look how it rotates. You can see that it's got the gear set right there. The cogs that
I
pull
see
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pull it up and make it go. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And you're from New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
How about that? Okay, I've been to your city a number of times.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, it's been a long time, but
Yeah.
no. Oh, yeah.
Have you been to the museum there?
I have not. I
Oh,
have not.
you must go
Yeah.
in there.
I have a problem with aircraft museums, in that I have a wife that cares nothing about aircraft museums. So when we go somewhere, usually
You miss
we
out.
drop her off in a mall, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we have Lakeside Mall. She can
Yeah.
go shopping.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah,
I don't think she thinks that airplanes are here to stay. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but you know, it's
Well, there's so much more than just
Yeah, the World War II
airplanes
Museum
at
has
that
so much.
God, it's-
I've never been able to finish it in one day.
No.
I have to go back and
Yeah.
catch it again, and they add things to it constantly.
Yeah.
I had, I'm from Chicago originally, and I had friends up there, a man and his wife, elderly people, they're both gone now, both commercial pilots.
Wow.
And back in the 40s, she taught ground school, and he was an inspector for B-29 engines,
Wow.
which came through Chicago there. And their courting days were going out to the airport and restoring
Wow.
airplanes. That's what they did.
That's
They
so
never had any children.
beautiful.
They had airplanes.
Huh?
That's it.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Delightful people. Those delightful people.
Oh, wow.
She's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. Her name was Wanda, and he called her Wendy. And if you'd ever been around her, I mean, you think I talk a lot, you know.
I know
But
what you mean.
she knew every part of every airplane. You know, I mean, she just was. I mean, they were just so matched to one another.
Wow.
It was great, you know.
That's
amazing.
crazy.
Yep.
And you can't get your wife into a airplane museum.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
you bet.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. And
Thank you for taking us back there.
Airplanes
All
there,
right.
and then
Yeah.
beyond, you know,
Okay.
beyond.
Hangar 3. Yeah.
Spend as much time as you like.
Thank you. And what was your name, sir? I'm sorry.
My name's Pat O'Connell, but people call me OC.
OC. Thank you so much. That's what he kept saying. OC, OC. And then I got it now. Okay. Thank you.
Drilled by Duke.
Oh, it actually has the who did the work on it.
This came off of the P-47. I said that the skin was taken off of it.
Wow.
Okay, where are the names? Here's Margaret, and looks like Nancy.
Yeah.
So they evidently did the riveting on this. See there?
Margaret
and they
and
would
Nancy.
sign these airplanes, and this is off of that P-47 that's out there. So I think it's kind of fun to see
Yes.
their names inside.
Right.
And these are the people that originally
They
built the
riveting on there.
aircraft.
You bet. Yeah.
Because every hole in that sheet metal. had a
Rosie the
rivet.
Had a rivet
Riveter.
in it. Yeah.
There you go, babe.
There you go.
Dan disassembled all of that, yeah. Yeah. So, at the end of the war, the aircraft plants were 50% female
Yeah.
at the end of the war, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the, right here, all we've got is just the autographs, the people who did the work.
Right.
In some cases, what the women would do is put messages on the airplane panel
Wow.
so that when the airplane was delivered, the crew would get greetings from home,
Oh, yeah.
encouragement.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
That's
Lucy.
why I think that is, I mean, that's
That's
my favorite.
worth.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
I mean, as you take them apart, you get to see that, and
Sure.
no one knows it's there until you start taking it apart.
Yep.
And when Dan was taking the skin off of it, I said, no, it was full of sand and coral. It's been buried.
Right.
I said, now you're going to save all of that, aren't you? And so we have a bucket of sand and coral that we have used in some of our displays
Oh, nice.
that came from New Guinea.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
You need a horse to ride now.
Where did they put all the fluorescents?
Where did those go?
Thank you
Have
so
fun.
much.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Scale. So, honey, I just want to tell you, I just need a bottle of water, like desperately bad.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go find
You go back.
No, you keep taking pictures. I'm gonna go find a bottle of water.
All right.
And
Ask him if there's a water fountain here too. Remember, the water is pure.
Right. I need a bottle of water.
Oh, I got you. Oh, you okay?
So that's the technology he used. So the motor you were looking at is actually the same as this.
And this is from 1943.
Yep. So this is a vacuum-driven motor to spin it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So
No.
it'll bank and it'll pitch up and down.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. It's like the most advanced grocery store ride ever. Remember those little rides at the grocery store? You pay a quarter when you were a kid and get on?
Actually, when he first built these,
Yeah.
he built them in order to make it less expensive to become a pilot. He figured if you could get training in a trainer and less flying hours, that would be less expensive. Well, he took it around to flight schools and none of them wanted it because they said, we're renting our airplanes. Why would we want to have this thing? We'll rent out our airplanes. So he actually did put it in amusement parks. He put a little box here, and you slip a
No way.
nickel or a quarter in and get 10 minutes ride in the trainer.
Oh
What?
my gosh.
The world's first simulator.
Yep. But then the Army came along, and they realized they needed to train their pilots to fly on instruments.
Wow.
And so they bought a bunch of these. Actually, by the end of World War II, the military, between the Army and the Navy, they bought over 10,000 of these things.
Really? So he finally found a buyer.
Yeah. And you couldn't graduate from Army or Navy flight school without spending about 50 hours in one of these things.
Wow.
And the pilots didn't like it. They figured all the training bases were in the south. This was before air conditioning. And you'd be cooped up in there for an hour at a time in the dark with the hood down, the door closed, steaming in there trying to fly the airplane.
Wow.
Now, why was there no window to see out of?
Because the whole function of it is to teach you to fly on instruments alone.
Oh, it is an instrument-only
Yep.
tool. Okay. A simulator. Now, how in the heck... So they'd have to use the altimeter and pitch and all like that to be able to figure out where they are.
Yep.
But they had no radar then, right? So...
Correct. The way they navigated was they had navigational transmitters on the ground every 30 miles, and you would fly from one to another.
Really?
Yep.
So what he's saying is there was no ping radar.
Right.
There was a transmitter on the ground that the plane picked up, and you had to navigate, I guess, the strength of the signal.
Well, actually, these were, they were divided, let's see, come over here.
So interesting.
It is.
The transmitter put out 4 different zones, and they were identified by a signal that you could hear in your headphones.
Oh.
And
Wow.
2 zones would be A, which is dit da, and 2 zones would be N, da, dit. So if you come and you're approaching this and you hear a da, dit, and N, you know that you're either southwest or northeast of it.
Wow.
And what you would do is you would fly until the N turned into an A. So you're flying in this direction. When the N turns into an A, you know you're right here at this
Yeah.
spoke.
At that moment.
And then you would fly it to the center, and then, so these wouldn't necessarily be at 90 degrees. They could be
Sure.
angled.
Yeah.
But the 4 zones would put you on the trip from Oshkosh to Indianapolis to
Wow.
wherever.
That's amazing.
So you would have to be listening the whole time and
Yeah.
hearing these AN datas on your headset.
Wow.
Wow.
So the instructor, now at the time, of course, during World War II, all the men were at war, so the instructors stateside were all women,
Wow.
Women's Air Force.
The WASP?
And,
WASP.
WAFs.
WAFs, thank you.
The WASPs were the women pilots.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
So the WAFs would, they would have all the controls that he has, they would have repeated here on the desk. They could see what he sees.
Really?
And this, we call it a crab, it would move across this map, and it had a pen, so she could see when he got off course and when he corrected back.
So the movements he was making in there moved the crab right here, so
Yep.
she could see exactly where he was on the map. So if he was in the right spot to land, she knew it.
That's right,
And if he missed it, she could tell he missed the spot to land.
that's right.
Could she talk to him?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, she had a headset and a microphone and the controls here, so she could actually move him off course. If he was on course, she could increase the wind here, and that would cause him to be blown off course, and he would have to correct back. And she could see you got blown off course, and you corrected back very well.
Wow.
Amazing.
This is the stuff you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know how they trained. You don't know. I mean, unless you read in a book, but even in a book, how could you understand this?
Yeah.
Unless you see it.
And this was all old radio tube technology.
Wow. And Kent, thank you so much, Kent,
No,
for
my
giving
pleasure.
us a little understanding of this.
Sure. Yeah.
I like your radio shop. I see that's what that is.
Well, that's Wayne. He's our radio guru.
Okay.
Wayne, do you still know how to do the vacuum tube repairs, or do you switch it out to transistors?
Transistors are an abomination.
Oh. So you still, how do you find the vacuum tubes then?
It's a lot easier than it looked like it was going to be for a while. They just turn up all over the place, like old TV service repair shops that go out of business. The family's stuck with like rooms full of vacuum tubes, so they sell them in large lots. eBay's a great source for it.
Wow.
There's a guy in Florida, that's his entire business. He has over 2 million tubes in stock.
Wow. Do you know what a vacuum tube is?
No.
Wayne, do you have one you can show her?
A vacuum tube?
Yeah.
For the radio? Is it
Yeah.
this?
No, he's going to show you. So today we use transistors.
Oh.
And back then, to create the resistance and electricity, I mean, he could probably explain it much better than I can.
Oh, okay.
They used a vacuum tube, which would step up or down the electrical voltage. Is that how it works?
It enabled you to use a very small signal to control the flow of a larger amount of current. So you step the power and the signal volume up, and you keep doing that. And you can do all kinds of things with vacuum tubes. But some of them were like glass, like this, and some of them were metal coated, because the outer metal shell provides shielding against interference.
Wow.
And today we have those little bitty transistors on the motherboards and
Yeah.
your phone and things like that.
Yeah.
But back then it would take a whole room to make a computer.
Yes.
And then integrated circuits, which are as small as a transistor, but have thousands of transistors in them.
Yep.
Wow.
It is amazing.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Now, what is this doing right here?
Okay, this is a mechanical keyer that generates all of the repetitive signals that are necessary to simulate navigational signals. You hear that just now?
Yeah.
There's a Morse code identification for like 5 different ground stations. There's a whole series
an
of
algorithmic
landing
keys.
markers.
That's like a Turing computer kind of thing.
It's like an automatic key.
Yeah. That is amazing that they came up with that.
Yeah. Well, you know, early 1940s, late 1930s, things were a combination of mechanical and electrical to get things done.
Wow.
Yeah, and most of this stuff is like original. We replaced a lot of capacitors in it because they get leaky. They made them originally with like very thin metal foil and oiled like paper between them for insulation. Well, the paper breaks down over time and begins to let current leak through between the two foil sections that aren't supposed to be talking to each other.
Wow.
So you have to replace that. But most of the resistors in it are still the original resistors. I think I replaced 2 out of maybe 50.
Wow.
But yeah, that was really lucky.
I guess so.
Wayne, thank you so much. Really
Yes.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for letting us into your little world.
Yes. Oh, it's been fabulous.
Have you seen our last room in there?
No, we have not. I didn't know there was another one.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you so
okay.
much. Y'all have a great day.
Yes. Look. Wow.
That's a tug, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's an older tug than the one we saw over there.
Functioning tug, right? Gotta love the hula doll on there.
And that's a track vehicle or a mixed track, right?
Yeah.
What's the roller on the front for?
I was hoping you'd ask. What do you think? Take a
Mines, if I had to guess. I have no idea.
Oh,
It's
No, as it doesn't lower.
if it's driving over rough territory and it gets down into a ditch, rather than burying the bumper, the roller would let it come back.
Come
up
right
out of the
back up.
ditch.
So this is around the same time they were experimenting with those wheels called a rolling gun, I think they're called. It's those massive rubber wheels that were part of the entire front of the vehicle. I forget who designed them, but
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
yeah. So it was the truck itself didn't have tires like this. They went across the entire bottom,
Huh.
and it allowed the vehicle to roll over terrain that would normally get another vehicle stuck. You could actually roll over somebody and they wouldn't hurt them
Huh.
because it distributed the weight.
Yeah.
They use them now on peat moss environments where the vehicle would normally sink or hit a bunch of small objects and it would roll right over it instead of getting stuck or not be able to move with a tire like that. And it had like 5 psi in the tires. It was real low.
Yeah.
But this is, I think that was around the same time that the Army bought a few and they never really used them.
That
So
was a
the-
great time of innovation during
Yeah.
the war. You know, they came up with a lot of ideas, some good, some bad.
What is this from?
That is the turbocharger from a P-47. If you remember.
Oh, that's that big turbo in the back that he showed us that we couldn't really see much of in the beginning, love.
Okay.
Yes, and you say it's got a turbo and a supercharger, right?
Yeah. All of the airplanes that we have some kind of a mechanical driven supercharger, but a supercharger loses efficiency as you gain altitude, whereas a turbocharger will maintain that efficiency.
Wow.
So now the Navy just went with the terminology, turbocharger is actually a type of supercharger.
Right, but it's behind the engine.
Right. And today, normal parlance is to call a supercharger one that's gear driven and a turbocharger one that's driven by exhaust pressure.
Right.
So the Navy, in order to save space, because on the carriers they wanted them, they didn't have room for this, and also because the technology required so many parts and they're limited on a carrier to how many parts they can have. So the Navy just went with mechanical superchargers, and most of their planes only went up to about 25,000 feet. Well, the Army went with turbochargers, and so there's the P-38 we have and the P-47, both were able to go up to 40,000.
Can I show you something real quick?
Sure.
Just a quick explanation. On
Okay.
every turbocharger, there's a hot side and a cold side.
Okay.
So the hot side is coming from the engine. That's the exhaust. You see it goes to the bottom of the turbocharger right there in the back,
There's
right?
2 black pipes going
Right.
back.
And so in the turbocharger, there's 2 fins. One gets blown by the hot side, and it has a shaft connected to the cold side on the other side of the turbocharger,
Yeah.
which then takes the air, pulls it in, and this is where it's compressed.
Yeah.
Compresses the air, pushes it back to the engine, and pushes more air into the pistons than would normally be allowed by what's called natural aspirated engine.
Got it.
So it's like shoving air into the pistons, and when it sparks, there's a lot more explosion.
Yep. Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The pilots like this, not only for the performance, but up at 40,000 feet, it's minus 40 degrees temperature.
Oh.
And so sitting right over the hot exhaust pipe kept them warm.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's no different than like on the Subaru that I used to
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
There's the cooler right there that cools the air as it goes back to the engine because you don't want hot air in the engine. You want it to be cooler.
The Chevelle doesn't have turbo?
No, my Chevelle does not have turbo. No. This is turbocharged engines are usually smaller engines on vehicles
Oh, okay.
because it puts a lot of stress on the engine.
I see.
Wow. I really appreciate that y'all have it out like that
Yeah.
Yeah.
to see how it's almost like a cutaway diagram where you can
Yes.
see the flow of the air and how much air was actually pushed through, and that's a massive. So the one on my car, or on the
Yeah.
GT, the Legacy was about that big.
Yeah. Like at that size.
Yes.
This
I
thing
think-
produced a manifold pressure of 60 inches.
Jesus.
So that's,
The Subaru is about 13.
Wow.
13 inches. Anything in a car that goes to 50 is considered like blueprinted racing quality. Like we're racing on the rallies with a 50-inch compression.
Oh,
60-something inches. Those are incredibly well-built engines then.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's a jet.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, that is.
It's built in Czechoslovakia. It's current. It's a military training plane that several of the NATO forces use for training pilots.
Really?
But that's not an old jet.
No, that's current. They're in current use. You can see it's got facilities for rockets and bombs down there for practice on the range. But this particular one is privately owned.
And he just pays to store it here?
Yeah, and well, the guy that owns it, Jim Slattery, he also owns
Oh, yeah.
one of the Corsairs. I think
Yeah.
he owns the P-38. He owns 4 or 5 of our airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps them here. And
Well, Jim's got a good bit of money.
Oh, yeah, I guess. So he keeps them here when he's not flying them.
Right.
Jim lives a good life.
Yeah. Yep.
Most people have hobby collections for the, just I'll build a little plane here and there, out of the hobby shop. Jim collects old planes and jets and keeps them in hangars to just fly them when he wants to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's also a jet.
Yes. Now that's an A-37.
I thought so. I thought that was a jet.
The T-37 was used as a training plane for the Air Force.
And this would be like Korea era? When would this be?
No, this is Vietnam.
Vietnam, okay.
The T-37 was used from the 60s through about 5 years ago. They finally took the T-37 out. The A-37 is just a T-37 trainer with a bigger engine on it, and they put the hard points on the wings so it can carry extra fuel tanks and rockets and things. But it was built by Cessna as a training plane. It's what I learned to fly on in the Air Force.
Really? What is this for?
That's the pitot tube. Pitot meaning P sub total, which is the total pressure when it goes through the air. The total pressure, there's a little hole in there.
Oh.
So the air is forced in there, and that's how you measure airspeed and altitude.
Okay. I did not know. I always wondered what that was. Kind of see them on the wing tips or wings sometimes.
Usually that's
yeah.
where they are, yeah.
Wow. that is cool, huh?
Yes.
And that's a 6-cylinder engine out of one of the planes?
Yeah. 435. I don't think it's the one from this stitch.
185 horsepower. Wow.
That's the same engine that would be in this.
Wow. Honey, it's got as much horsepower as your car. Or less, actually.
Oh. The car has less?
No, your car has more than this. Your 6-cylinder and the Honda Pilot you have has more power than this little engine that flew that plane.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy.
Now that plane has an interesting history. Not that particular one, but that model. At the end of World War II, Hermann Goering, who was the head of the Luftwaffe, was being sent to Nuremberg for the Nuremberg Trials, and they were sending him in one of these planes. But normally the pilot sits up front and the passenger sits in the back. But the way the seats were arranged, he was too big and fat to sit in the back. It would have thrown the center of gravity too far to the back. So they had to put him up in front in the pilot's seat. And the pilot in back had a stick to fly it with, but he had no brakes.
Oh, wow.
So when they landed at Nuremberg, Goering had to apply the brakes to stop the airplane.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. That's a lot of trust
Yeah.
for a guy that was going on trial.
Exactly.
Could you please hit the brakes? Nope. I think this is the end. I think I'll just die here.
Yeah, that's,
Man.
Well, my love, do you want to go do the simulator before we
Yes,
leave?
absolutely.
Or at least go back to the main
Did you get
main
that
thing?
red one? It's so pretty.
Oh, no, I didn't. I will, though.
that's a Howard DGA.
Oh.
It was 1930s executive transport. Some of the airlines used it too, but mostly it was executive transport.
Wow. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah, it is beautiful.
I can take you behind the lines if you want to look.
Oh, we would love to. One of the things we want to see too on the inside, we're hoping that they'll do it for us when we go back up front, is the red boat plane. I don't know what you call them, water landing plane.
Yeah, the flying boat.
We would love to see the inside. I saw how well they redid it. I'm like, oh my God, it looks like a Bel Air, like a 1950s Bel Air. Oh wow.
Hey.
It was quite plush in its day.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw inside. And I didn't know. We don't know because we just came from Louisiana, from New Orleans, and we just thought on a whim while we're, I'm military, so we stayed on the base last night, and I said, well, let's go check the museum out. They got a museum here. Let's go look at it.
Yeah.
And we had no idea that all the planes were functional.
Yeah.
So when we were looking at it, of course, you're used to the World War II museum, which the outside's real nice, but they don't worry too much about the interior. And I saw the interior of that plane, and I'm like, wow, it looks like a 1950s Bel Air. It's so perfectly well done. And I told the gentleman up front that, and he's like, well, it's because it flies. And I'm like, no, come on.
He said, oh no, they all do.
We only have 2 airplanes here that don't fly.
Really? Wow.
Now, some of them don't fly often. That very
Yeah.
old one that Lindbergh flew
Yeah.
is so
I'm sorry. Go
precious
ahead, love.
that they don't like to.
Can we
Yeah,
open
yeah,
that?
go ahead.
Okay.
It's not loud.
Just watch the right
Yep,
there.
I see. Wow. Okay, I'll let you come get a picture.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That is very fancy. Okay, you can come get your picture.
Well, thank you, love. I appreciate it. Can you just hold it open for me?
Yep.
Look at the stitching on the back and everything. And
It's beautiful.
it looks like you actually give people rides in that thing. Like they're like, hey, we'd like to go for a ride. Look, the seatbelts on top. You see the seatbelts on top?
Oh, yeah.
Almost like the 70 Chevelle, how it puts the Chevelle, how it does that. What is the crank on top for?
Oh, that's for elevator trim.
Okay.
When let's say you locked, now, as you know, the elevator controls the pitch up and pitch down.
Right.
If you locked that in position and you were flying, as you change airspeed, the lift on the elevator changes.
Okay.
So as you go faster, it would nose down, and as you go slower, it would nose
Kind of
up.
like the trim on a boat.
That's right. Exactly. Okay.
Oh.
So that's just elevator trim so that you don't have to you're
Go
flying
back and
along at
forth
one
like that.
speed, you're pushing forward on the yoke for half an hour.
Yes. So on the boat, babe, there's trim. You know what I'm talking about. On the
Yeah.
back of the boat, in the water, there's a trim piece that has a flap on both sides that goes up and down.
Right.
And it keeps you from porpoising
Yeah.
as you're going along and you're hitting the underwater swells and changing speeds.
Right.
So my dad would always yell at me about, change the trim. I'm like, what the hell? I don't know where to go with the trim.
Yeah, on a boat, you just sort of feel it till it rides nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking us back here.
Awesome. Yes.
This has been like one of the highlights of our trip, I have to say.
I know we are the second most popular tourist attraction in the Springs.
Really?
Wow.
Well, I'm glad we caught you during a colder season or a colder time and less people on a weekday because we really appreciate it.
Well, we usually have the time to do this anyway,
Wow.
unless it's really busy in the summer.
Right.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
2 banks?
Yes,
Yeah.
2 banks offset.
Yep.
That's how they fit all the pistons in there. It's not just the front bank. So it's a set of pistons here and then back here.
Yeah.
I had no idea. You always just see the fronts. You never know that there's. I didn't know.
Over on this side, you can see a piston and see how huge they are.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Wow, thank you for taking one off. I'm glad y'all did that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, there's always an odd number of cylinders. And the reason for that is the firing order would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Oh.
So if you had an even number, you'd be,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So always an odd number.
Wow.
now we saw that big oil tank here. That's not fuel, that's oil.
Wow.
Yeah.
The amount of oil in this, it would be in the crankcase, of course, is in the center. So when it sits here overnight, the oil drains out of the crankcase through the piston rings.
That's why they have the drip pans on the one up front.
Exactly. And when you go to start this engine, if you were to just start it up right away, you'd have a hydraulic lock on the bottom because the pistons are full of oil, and you'd have oil starvation in the top because all the oil's drained down. So before you start it, you have to turn the prop around a couple of times, get the oil pump working, pump it up out of the bottom and into the
So
top.
for engines, same thing in a car. For engines that have been sitting a long time,
Yeah.
you can take a drill, get on the crank or on top of the distributor, and you turn the pistons.
Yeah.
And that cranks the oil
Rotates.
around the engine to lube the
Yeah. engine,
so you're not starting it with an engine that's been sitting so long and it's
Yeah.
dry.
Right. Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty.
Thank you for telling us that.
Yeah.
Definitely stuff we had no idea about.
Right. Right.
Well, on a slow day, it gets boring, so I'm glad when I have someone to talk to.
Yeah. I hope everyone that comes through is interested in the knowledge you have.
Yeah.
The people that come here are interested, so.
Yeah.
So you want to take a ride?
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's a $5 charge if you would.
Okay. Yep.
And we can put that on a charge card. We prefer
I do.
Okay.
You have cash? She has cash. She's the cash person.
We prefer a card if you have it.
Oh, do you? Oh, well then. Oh, okay. Well, then that's easy. I got that.
Okay. Card with him.
There you go.
Take the stick, move it left and right, and you see the ailerons, and actually the ones on the real airplane.
Oh, wow.
Too.
Oh my goodness.
Like I said, don't crash it.
So that's what makes the plane bank left and right.
Got it.
Moving it back and forward, you can't see it, but the elevator in the back is moving, and that's what makes it go up and down.
Oh.
Now, put your feet on the rudder pedals, you got them there, push them hard, one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay, so that's left rudder and right rudder.
Which is.
Okay, just like a boat, left rudder would make the boat steer to the left.
Oh.
Now, when we're on the ground, we don't have enough airspeed to bank it.
Yeah.
And also, if you did bank it, you'd drag a wingtip. Okay, so on the ground, we steer it with your feet, just left and right.
Okay.
So on the takeoff roll, I'll have you not even have your hands on the stick. You just take off and steer with your feet. It's going to want to veer off to the left. And the reason for that is because the propeller is spinning to the right.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to want to go left, so you're going to have to put right rudder in.
Right, okay.
And actually, to start out, you might have to put quite a bit in.
Okay.
And then as you go faster, the controls become more effective and you use less.
Okay.
So once we take off, now, once we take off, we'll try and keep the horizon somewhere in this vicinity,
Okay.
okay? If you pull back on the stick too far and raise the nose too high,
Uh-huh.
just like riding a bicycle,
I'll lose the horizon.
well, you go uphill, it goes slower.
Right.
You go downhill, it goes faster.
Right.
Well, if you go too slow, it's not going to fly anymore.
Right.
And if you go too fast down to the ground,
Yes.
you crash.
Right.
So in order to maintain roughly level flight,
Okay.
we want to keep the horizon somewhere in this vicinity.
Okay.
Okay? A lot of people go there and they take off and they pull back on the stick and the nose goes up and they crash right back down.
Got it.
So this is the airspeed indicator here. As we're accelerating down the runway, when we reach about 50 miles an hour, now the plane is sitting on its tail. So when we reach about 50 miles an hour, the tail will lift up because it's starting to fly, but the
Okay.
wings aren't yet. So at 50 miles an hour or a little faster than that, as we accelerate, then you can grab the stick and start to pull back gradually, and we'll take off.
Okay.
So, once we're airborne, to make a turn, everybody knows you take the stick and go one way or the other. But it also helps to put a little bit of rudder in,
Okay.
because as we turn, notice how the wings, to accentuate it, if we went all the way like that, we have
Yeah.
hardly any lift,
Right.
okay? But we have lift here on the tail, where the rudder is. So we're increasing lift, and you pull back on the stick in order to increase lift.
Right.
So when we bank, you're gonna have to pull back on the stick, and if you remember, put in a little right rudder or left rudder, and that'll help us turn. You don't have to with a rudder, it'll work without it, but it's
But
much.
it will help.
That's right.
Use it.
Okay,
Okay.
so, let's start it up. And that's your throttle, that's the gas pedal,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
So hand off the stick,
Right.
push that forward all the way, and steer with your feet. Try and keep it on the runway. Okay, now you can pull back on the stick and start to lift off. There you go, you're flying.
Okay.
Now, the climb out speed is about 80. So you're close to that, you're at 85.
Okay. Okay.
So just play with the controls a little. Move left and right, up and down, get the feel of it.
Okay.
Up.
Horizon's getting a little high.
That's good. Now, the airspeed at this point, airspeed is controlled by pitch.
Okay.
Going up, it'll slow down. Going down, it'll speed up.
Okay.
So right now we're doing about 85 or 90. That's a good flying speed.
Okay.
So try pulling back a little bit more
Okay.
and watch the airspeed drop down.
Sure enough.
Yep. Now, if you kept it up that high, you could get down eventually below 50 and then you cease to fly.
See.
And that's called a stall. So, let's try making a turn.
Okay.
Bank it either way.
All right.
And do it about, about 45 degrees.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
good. Okay, now pull back on the stick a little bit to bring that nose up again. That's it. And give it a little right rudder. See how that helps?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to go upside down.
Well, we'll be doing that in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, try one to the left.
All right.
Pull back on the stick, bring the nose up. That's it. Okay, so now bring it back to level flight.
Okay.
And we'll do an aileron roll. Now, aileron roll, you can just with the stick. And to do that, I'll have you push the stick all the way over either way, and we'll go around. Now, unlike a car, with a car, you move the steering wheel to the right, and it turns to the right. With a plane, you move the stick to the right,
plane. Do you see this? I'm flying a plane.
I'm flying. I want to try with after it. This is amazing. This is like the best version of Microsoft Simulator I've ever seen.
All right. Here we go.
Good. Okay, so now let's try flying upside down.
Oh, cool.
Now what you have to remember is,
Yeah.
when we're right side up, we pull back on the stick and the nose is going to come up.
Right.
When we're upside down, we pull back on the stick and the nose is,
Gonna go down.
that's right. So when we're upside down, you need to push forward on the stick and keep your nose up.
Got it.
I like to have you, when you're upside down, if you can keep the horizon hidden behind the wing, that'll give you nice inverted level flight.
Okay. Horizon hidden behind the wing.
Yep.
There.
All right, so flip it over, push forward on the stick,
Okay.
and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Okay?
Oh,
Push forward, push forward.
that's right. That's right.
A little bit to the right, get the lever off. There you go. That's it. Keep the horizon hidden behind the wing.
Got it.
To the left.
Oh, left, left.
Forward. There you go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to do what's called a split S.
Okay.
And split S is you're flying upside down, and I'm going to have you pull back on the stick hard, and it'll come around like that. It's half a loop.
Okay.
Okay?
Say that again now.
You pull back on the stick hard,
Uh-huh.
and you go around like
Oh, I
this. And
gotcha.
when we're right side up, then you recover and bring the nose up.
Okay.
Okay?
All
Give it a
right.
shot.
Back, right?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Up.
There you go.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And now we're back.
Okay. So, a split S is what you would do if you were being chased by a Japanese Zero, let's say.
Oh.
Okay? And you want to escape him. So you go whoop, around, and now you're flying right at him and you can shoot at him.
Whoa.
So that's what a split S would do.
So it's a
Of course,
loop.
he's smart enough that he's going to do the same thing, follow you, but that's what the maneuver is designed to do.
Okay.
Rapidly get your face in the other direction.
Oh, I see. So basically the pull maneuver, the pull back and flip over?
Yep.
That one?
Yep. Oh, well, this, hold on.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can do that, that's a loop.
Okay.
Oh, see, there's 50.
Oh.
You see, almost stalled it.
Oh.
We can do that, though.
No, no.
Okay, in order to do a loop,
Yeah.
what you're going to have to do, this plane is so underpowered
Yeah.
that if you just pull up like this, it doesn't have enough power to go up. So you're going to have to put the nose down
Oh.
and get it going faster.
Oh.
And once it's going fast, then you can pull up hard and go all the way around.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Okay.
So, push the nose forward. I'll tell you when to pull back. That's good, right there.
Okay. And now pull back?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now, pull back hard. There you go.
Well, you're doing something. Keep going, baby. Keep going.
I don't know what my elevation
Okay,
is, but I feel like
now
it's
let
really
it up.
low.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Okay. Let's try some landings then.
Yeah.
Okay. The runway is actually right underneath us, so we'll continue in this direction.
Okay.
And yeah, come a little to the right. Aim for that spot over there, more or less.
Where?
Right about there someplace.
Oh, I see.
I'm just getting you maneuvered so that you can.
Yeah.
Now, two things about the landing. As we get closer to the ground, you're going to have to be steering more and more with your feet. Because we don't want to drag a wingtip. Okay?
Okay.
So, I mean, right now, you're the bank, but once we get down close to the ground, it'll be feet only. And the other thing is, we'll be coming down, and as we approach the runway, you've seen the way birds land, is they come down and they flare like this. They touch down gently.
Right.
We do the same thing. We'll be coming down, and when I say start your flare, you just gradually start pulling back the stick like you don't want to land.
Oh.
Like you're trying to keep it from landing. And
Right.
It's a nice soft landing.
Okay.
And then we'll push the power up again and take off.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, let's turn around to the left and look for that runway. Picking a little left rudder or two. Pull the nose up. That's it. Okay, good. Get a little off. Okay. There's the runway there. So let's go throttle all the way back with your left hand. Throttle.
Bottom.
That's it. All the way back.
Oh. Okay.
We're actually quite high right now, so
Oh.
let's see. We have two runways to choose from. Let's use this one here.
Okay.
Now, pull back on the stick to slow it up. That's it. Yeah, that's good right there. We don't want to be going too fast when we land.
Okay.
And we're still a little bit high. So let's make a turn. We're going to circle down
Oh.
like a corkscrew. Ooh, not that much.
More like that?
Yeah, more like that.
Well,
But it's working. We're losing altitude.
that's good.
Getting ready for a good landing there.
Mm-hmm. All right, where'd that runway go?
Don't worry, honey. It's got airbags if you crash.
Okay, okay.
And you will walk away from this one.
Okay, stick forward. You're losing airspeed.
Okay. Oh, oh,
That's a
oh.
stall.
Oh,
Okay, you did a stall and you recovered from it.
oh. Okay,
So,
great.
now we'll just land on that taxiway. That'll work too.
Okay,
Just land wherever.
Wings level, steer with your feet.
okay,
And if we land in the sand, that works too.
okay.
Okay? Pull it back, start your flare. That's it. Pretend you don't want to land. Just try and
Right.
hold it off.
Right about that.
Maybe a little forward now.
Okay.
There, now start pulling back again. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Okay, a little bounce. Okay, left hand on the throttle, all the way forward. We'll take off again.
Oh, are we?
Yep.
She's like, I don't wanna. Oh!
Are we going fast enough?
Yep. Okay, you're paused. You can swap seats.
Okay, perfect.
I would definitely like to try.
Your turn.
Can I start from the beginning? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
I want to learn too.
Yeah, and we can swipe that same card if need be.
We're bank the airplane, forward and back, nose up and nose down. We want to keep the nose, the horizon, right about there on the nose. If you pull up too much, it'll slow down too far and you won't be flying. Push forward too far and it'll crash. So we like to keep it right in the middle. On the ground, you don't want to drag a wingtip, so you can't really use the stick left and right to steer down the runway. So you have to use your feet. So try that. Get the feel of the rudder pedals. You're gonna have to push. Might have to push farther than that. As we build up airspeed.
Is this the little bit of trim right there?
Actually, the top of the rudder pedals is the foot brakes.
Oh, okay, so
this is the trim, the rudder.
That's the rudder. Yep.
Okay, and that would be the brake itself.
That's it, yep.
And there's 2 brakes, one for each wheel, I'm guessing.
Yep. Yep. So if you were to push on just one brake,
Ah, gotcha. Gotcha.
okay? So 50 miles an hour is stall speed. Anything above that, we're flying. Anything below that, we're not flying.
Okay.
And about 80 is a good climb out speed. That'll get us up to altitude the quickest. Okay.
2 knobs. Which
Okay,
one's
the
this?
red one is the mixture, and we just leave that there. The black one is the throttle.
Gotcha.
So you can pull that back to idle. Start the engine. Okay, give it full power. Steer with your feet until we reach 50.
Well, this during the Second World War, this was Steve Sharp.
So we already had 6,000.
It was about the most
So
advanced.
now we're coming up at 7,000. And we're at 7,200, that would be 1,000 feet above the ground, about 100 stories.
Technology, especially during the war time. Oh, yeah. When the first one was
Head is south, so
still
I'm
landing,
landing
so
north going back.
horses.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. With your wife, you gotta turn around with all the maneuvers and push the air sounds. Okay, so try making some turns, get the feel of the turns.
Just put those machine guns around and 3 and 4. Oh, yeah. And you have to have that big magazine to hold 100 rounds. That's the way 200 is. Those 50 calibers. Yeah, those 7,000 pounds. Those standard thing on the United States aircraft is 6 of those 50 caliber machine guns for each. And all the magazines. So
Back up a little bit.
there must have been something to what you ran a magazine to buy. You had to notice. I didn't know. They were done. They're done. And they would have
This is good.
indications.
We're heading for a stall, but that's okay. So we'll get your observation back. This is too high, so the airspeed, put brakes on those a little more. Yeah, that's good. So the airspeed's gonna drop off, and when it reaches 50, suddenly the nose comes out, which is flying
Yeah, so well, they did that in these had to go synchronizing gears. So the bullets would go back. After the just
So now we're going downhill, we give us airspeed, you're flying. So that's all there is to the stall.
The first aircraft they had that actually carried the machine gun, the guy that had it installed on his airplane, he took pieces of steel and screwed them to the back sides of the pellet so that the bullets would bounce off. Oh, yeah, pellet armored plate. Yeah, basically, it's all those steel pieces. So when the bullets hit it, they would shoot.
Okay, so now let's try to handle our balance on that.
Yeah.
So either way, all the way over. And remember, you just have to stop this here. Look to the right side.
Well, do you want to go try to find someplace to eat close to your house in case they call us? Yeah. I'm ready for lunch. It's not going to be tough. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got to see lunch. No, lunch. You got to eat lunch. I need a can. You know, a can I use today. Not a tough one. Try to cut my son a good job when I got next day.
Texas Roadhouse.
So inverted flight.
Stay
Down from the upside down.
The
and we're
ribs
gonna
are
like a
still-
shoulder. Once you're upside down, you're gonna have to push forward on the stick to keep the nose up.
Any American food? You want American food?
Give it a shot.
Roadhouse or any cafe or something?
Good. Rick that we got trim here, but.
Oh, they did belts and.
Yeah, well, I know, when they first started flying, they didn't have seatbelts. But then when they started flying, they had their lights set down, especially when they first report.
Okay, so let's try this with this. You remember you're upside down. You're just going to pull back on the stick. So you're going to roll it around.
Rejection, that we would reject for if you were going down, you couldn't reject. Oh, no, that's what they would do. The hot thing to do is turn upside down and drop out the cockpit. Okay. That is a preferable way to do it. Because a lot of times, if the airplane is in a normal configuration, you jump out the window. So if you fell off the back of the it's upside down, and roll off the back. You hit that, kill your leg before you even get up, until you're dead before you better shoot. This is a high-night training. This is the first thing you get flying. There's some people here in the interview who write on it. I think that's one of the things I want to do. Is get right in here.
Yeah, you don't want to split us from here because you're too close to the ground.
When they were finished with the day's work, they would frequently do a canvas. I want to do as fast fuselage.
Yeah, the shape of the wing is not quite as efficient upside down as
Just decided to go out and jump in an airplane, didn't do the pre-trip, didn't check for the tool bag, took off. The tool bag ran back to the fuselage, control cables, digression. That's my father, that was your dad's airplane. They had specific, like, you were assigned an aircraft, this was your aircraft to take care of. And he was the crew chief on his A-20, which was
okay, runway's right behind us. Let's try on in.
responsible for all the paperwork too, to make sure that they got covered. Responsible position.
Thank you. Y'all too.
Maybe I lost the runway.
Oh, I understand. I lost it myself.
Okay, now don't start your descent yet. Let's stay where we are.
Yeah, I'm just trying to level on.
So, reminding you, as you get closer to the ground, you're going to need to steer with your feet instead of
Got it.
so we don't grab a wing zip. And as we get down here closer, when I say start your flare, you start pulling back as though you want to keep on flying and you don't want to touch down. And if you do that so that you try and keep it from touching down, eventually you will anyway. Now, we're lined up on the runway, and there's another runway towards the end that goes in this direction.
Right.
So hopefully, after we land on this runway, we'll take off again, we'll climb a little bit, and then go land on the second runway.
Landing is the hardest.
Yep. So that way you get two landings.
What's our base altitude?
6,200.
6,200.
Yep. So we're about 400 feet above the runway. Let's pull the throttle back all the way. And left throttle, left hand.
I'm sorry. And now I'm more like a glider, right?
Yep. Now, when your airspeed bleeds off to about 80, then try and keep it at about 70 or 80. Steering with your feet now. That's beautiful airspeed right now. Aim for the end of the runway, a little left rudder with your foot, left foot. That's it. Okay, wind's low. Now start your flare. Yeah, you're not going to land because of the full power, but you would have. Yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm in the grass. Look out, there's a sign.
Okay, full power, take off again.
Yeah, let's do that, because we definitely missed the ground there. Ooh.
Okay, now we'll look off to the left and we'll see there's a runway there pretty soon and we'll land on that.
Wait, we're going back down again?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Aim for that.
All right. I'm gonna come in sharp on it.
Okay, throttle back all the way. Start your left turn now or you'll overshoot. Okay, now throttle ahead again.
Because I just lost airspeed, right?
Yep, yep. Okay. Now bring it back to about halfway. Yeah. Okay,
Let me try
now
this one.
throttle to idle. Beautiful. Now start your flare, gradually pull it back. No, throttle idle. Leave it there. Just the same. Yeah. So we're just going to cushion down. Beautiful.
Nice.
Okay, now on the toe brakes.
Whoa. This way. Don't go back up. Where are you going back up? That's the tail.
Yep. Good. So you would have walked away from that.
Well, that's good.
Well, that's good. You didn't die today. Oh, that was fun. Did you get that one, David?
I did.
Woo. Thank you so much. What was your name again? Was it Ken?
Kent.
Thank you so much, Ken.
My pleasure. Yeah, let me get your guys' names for the log here.